Chapter 3589. Thousands of miles away from the Ice River Valley, more and more powerful warriors and armies were gathering. In the end, even Second Patriarch was here. They had been waiting outside for 10 days. If it were not for the fact that Second Patriarch kept them in check, many powerful warriors would have wanted to go in. After Second Patriarch came, the matter of the rhinoceros ape race master was sealed off. None of the other patriarchs had the right to know the inside story, let alone the family masters or patriarchs of the affiliated races. It had been 10 days and no news came out. The powerful warriors were getting impatient. What were they doing here? What was going on in there? Had Luli been captured? If so, why was there no news coming out? If not, why didn't they send someone to capture him? Even Second Patriarch was confused. What was their family master doing in there? Why was there no news after so long? Out of his trust and respect for the family master, Second Patriarch didn't dare to go in. He had to wait. He believed that in a couple of days at most, there would be news or their family master would send a message to them. As expected, 4 days later, Second Patriarch heard a voice. It was from their family master. Something has changed. Tell all the warriors to disperse. Tell them that Luli is not here. He has run away. He has run away? Second Patriarch was stunned. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. In the end, he carried out the family master's order and strictly ordered the patriarchs that knew the family master was here not to tell others. Otherwise they would be killed. Since Second Patriarch had used the words, "kill on sight," the other patriarchs didn't dare to say another word. They left and went to other places to search. After the army retreated, the second elder flew towards the Ice River Valley. He stood above the Ice River Valley and looked through the shield to see the hellish scene inside. His heart was filled with sorrow. He looked around but didn't see their family master. "Come in." Just as he was feeling puzzled, a voice rang out. After which, a hole automatically opened up in the divine inscription's grand array. The second elder hurriedly flew in, taking the initiative to fly towards the cave. A man came out from the cave. It was the family master of the rhinoceros ape race. "Greetings, family master." Second Patriarch bowed. The family master of the rhinoceros ape race waved his hand and said, "It was a stupid decision for you to fight against Luli. This child's concealment technique is unparalleled in the world. It is the most powerful escape technique this king has ever seen. He actually disappeared right under my nose." "What?" Patriarch too was taken aback. He had thought that Luli would not be able to hide from anyone below the consummate realm. He didn't expect that Luli would be so powerful that not even a consummate realm warrior could find him. If this matter were to spread, wouldn't the 8 major star fields explode? It seems like the matter regarding the clan is true. Second Patriarch sighed. At first, they had some doubts. Now they realized that it was true that Luli could subjugate the human races. The clan had 2 at the consummate level, but they probably wouldn't be able to find Luli. On the other hand, Luli had been assassinating human warriors and armies. They had to yield to him. But what the rhinoceros ape master said next shocked Second Patriarch. "I am sure that Luli is in the Ice Valley and he hasn't left. It's just that I don't know what method he's using to hide himself. This king has no way of forcing him out. How can a living person hide under the eyes of the clan king?" Second Patriarch was confused. The Ice River Valley was only this large and the divine patterns were activated. Luli had to hide in there. Judging by the situation, the clan king must have taken actions and torn apart all the possible hiding places. Even so, Luli couldn't be forced out. Luli was a freak. "I have my doubts," the clan master of the rhinoceros ape race said. "I don't think Luli is in this space. He should be in another space. He has a special ability that allows him to teleport to a strange space from anywhere and come back from another space at any time. Other than this explanation, this king cannot think of any other explanation." Another space? Second Patriarch paused. He thought about it and added, that is possible. But the entrances and exits to different spaces are usually fixed. How can they be moved at will? The nodes connecting two spaces must be fixed. How can they be moved? Every large space would be connected to many smaller spaces. Those smaller spaces were in the Sumeru space. Along with the changes in space, it was easy for them to form connections. It was the same for many secret realms and small worlds. It was the same for the small worlds made by powerful warriors. The problem was that those spaces were fixed. Once a Sumeru space was in one place, it would never be moved. Therefore, the entrances and exits must be fixed as well. There could be many entrances and exits, but they could not be moved. They could only be destroyed. I don't understand this either. The clan master of the rhinoceros ape race sighed and said, if I could, I would have found Luli and killed him. It is my fault. I wanted to recruit him, but I didn't kill him at once. I didn't know that he could hide so well. Second Patriarch looked around and asked, Clan King, what should we do next? Do you want me to send a group of powerful warriors to wait here and see how long Luli can hide? No. The clan master of the rhinoceros ape race shook his head and suddenly said, I have built some divine patterns here. There is one that cannot be cracked without several months. As soon as the divine patterns here move, I will be able to sense it. Well, arrange two patriarchs that are good at hiding outside. Luli has a blood-red goblin that can crack formations. Luli is young and I don't think he knows much about divine patterns. Therefore, to crack formations, he must send the goblin. The goblin is easy to detect. Tell them not to act rashly and just send me a message. No problem. Second Patriarch nodded. There were several patriarchs that were good at hiding. 2 should be enough. They couldn't let their clan master stay here all the time. Also, Luli wouldn't come out even if he did. I am afraid. The clan master of the rhinoceros ape race sighed and said, I am afraid that he will hide for a few years. By then, I will be gone. Once he comes out and makes a scene, the future of the rhinoceros ape race will be as bleak. Clan master, on the mention of this, Second Patriarch felt sad. He choked with sobs. The clan master of the rhinoceros ape race waved his hand. He poured out some source energy and flew out. Second Patriarch followed him. When they came out, the crack disappeared. The clan master of the rhinoceros ape race poured out some source energy to reinforce the formation. He waved his hand and said, I am not going anywhere else. I will stay at the ancient city of rhinoceros ape race. You make the arrangements here. The Lu race and the Meng race are almost ready, right? Yes. The second eldress said solemnly, according to the insider's report, the 5 great clans might make a move soon. The experts from the 2 great clans will disguise themselves and blend into the 5 clans' army. Even their consummate realm experts might be mobilized. This battle will be very difficult. It is not difficult. The clan master of the rhinoceros ape race shook his head. He looked at the Ice River Valley and said, compared to the Lu race, the Meng race and the allied forces of the 5 races, I am more worried about this Grim Reaper. Once this king dies, none of you will be able to suppress him. Chapter 3590. The Rhinoceros Ape King went to ancient Rhinoceros City. He asked the city lord to arrange a small castle for him and told him not to disturb him for no reason. After that, he stayed in the city. The second elder summoned 2 elders to stand guard outside the Ice River Valley. At the same time, he mobilized a few thousand soldiers to seal off the perimeter of the Ice River Valley. No cultivators were allowed to approach. The 2 elders did not enter Ice River Valley, but hid in the outskirts. They did not need to monitor the situation in Ice River Valley, they only needed to sense if there were any charm spirits breaking the formation. Luli was young. He would not know how to crack formations. If he were to rely on Blood Fairy, then they would be able to find out easily. What was more, the formation was strong. It would take them at least half a year to crack it. Therefore, they had time to report to their superiors, and the rhinoceros ape master had time to set up a plan to kill Luli. Luli didn't do anything. He was frightened by the master of the rhinoceros ape race. He had been trembling with fear ever since he entered the Dharma realm, fearing that the master of the rhinoceros ape race would find his Dharma realm and kill him there. This was his first time facing a great perfection realm enemy, and it made him feel like he had walked a circle around the gates of death. Thus, he didn't dare to activate the great Dao Scar to investigate. He could only wait uneasily in the magic realm. 10 days later, Luli felt a bit better. After a month, he was completely relieved. However, he was afraid that the rhinoceros ape king was still waiting for him, so he didn't dare to check out the situation outside. He decided to wait for half a year first. In any case, there was nothing important on the Grim Reaper's side. It didn't matter if he stayed here for a few years. He didn't believe that the rhinoceros ape tribe king would wait here forever. There must be a reason why the rhinoceros ape tribe king had not made a move for such a long time. Moreover, with the current situation of the rhinoceros ape tribe, the nearby large tribes were probably ready to make a move. According to the information gathered by Lord Li and the others, many large clans had been in frequent contact. During this period of time, he had been attacking crazily in order to incite those large clans to join forces and attack. "I'll go into seclusion for half a year." Luli didn't care about anything else. He planned to cultivate in the Dharma realm for half a year. He had killed enough, and it was time for him to have a good rest. More importantly, his recent frenzied attacks had consumed a lot of his divine liquid of destruction and flames. If he didn't have these two super murderous intents, his combat strength would definitely drop by a lot. He should also find time to calm down and think about how to improve his combat strength. Invincible existences below the Great Perfection Realm, he was very satisfied with his current combat power, so he really wanted to have this level of combat power. He wasn't too eager to reach the Great Perfection Realm. As long as he could maintain the realm of being invincible below the Great Perfection Realm, he would be satisfied. He immediately went into seclusion, holding the Gong Huang Ding in his hand. This cauldron was inexplicably refined, and he did not comprehend the laws within it. He wanted to spend half a year to see if he could comprehend the laws within the cauldron. If he could comprehend it, he would have another powerful killer move. When the time came, it would be even more powerful when used with the Gong Huang cauldron. As Luli fell silent, so did the people outside. Even though many rhino apes were still searching for Luli, the higher-ups were not as enthusiastic. Naturally, the others were not as enthusiastic. It had been 3 months since Luli showed up. The higher-ups of the rhino apes didn't rush him either. Many places had stopped searching. But during this time, some rumors began to spread. The most popular one was that the clan leader of the rhino apes had passed away, decades ago. It was said that the news came from within the rhino apes, and it was well organized. It was said that the castle where the clan leader lived was covered in dust. The maid who was sent to clean it went in and found that the castle was empty. It seemed that nobody had lived there for years. There was no sign of life. Another piece of news came from within the rhino ape. It was said that the rhino apes had begun to prepare for an escape route. A large number of disciples of the rhino apes were gathered and sent to their ancestral land in secret. Many resources were being sent in as well. All the resources and treasures were sent to the rhino apes city. The second one didn't seem to be a rumor, and it was easy to confirm. Scouts from other races came to investigate. Soon, they came to the conclusion that the rhino apes were indeed preparing for an escape route. Almost all the young elites of the rhino apes were gone. Over 90% of the young masters and young ladies of the immediate rhino apes were gone. The third piece of news was that the rhino apes were asking for help from their allies. They were even willing to cede some universes in exchange for those allies to help them overcome the crisis. This was true, not a rumor. The Rhino Apes sent patriarchs to the two super forces, but they were found out by the scouts there. Putting all the information together, one conclusion could be drawn. The clan leader of the Rhino Apes was dead and the Rhino Apes were preparing to retreat. The news made the 5 major races nearby excited. How could they sit back and watch the Rhino Apes retreat unscathed? If the Rhino Apes all left, they would preserve their strength. They could hide for tens of thousands of years. When they had a warrior at the consummate level, the Rhino Apes would make a comeback. Since they were going to take over the territory of the Rhino Apes, then they must destroy the Rhino Ape. Even if they could not, they must inflict a heavy blow on them, so that they could not recover for tens of thousands of years. After occupying the territory for tens of thousands of years, they were strong and powerful. They were not afraid of the Rhino Apes coming back. Therefore, the leaders of the 5 major races met urgently and went to the headquarters of the Meng race. They discussed with the Grand Elder of the Meng race and the Glass race for a while and finally decided to join forces. The leaders of the various races returned and began to mobilize their troop. They agreed to attack in 2 months. The army would sweep through the domains controlled by the Rhino Ape. 2 months later, the 5 major races jointly issued a notice listing the crimes of the Rhino Ape. They would represent the righteous and destroy the Rhino Apes, upholding justice for the people of the hundreds of domains and enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. The 5 major races formed an alliance called the Heaven Murder Union. If they could destroy the Rhino Apes, the Heaven Murder Union would probably become the Heaven Murder Sect. They would officially form a super force and take over the territory of the Rhino Ape. What was funny was that 3 of the 5 major races were subsidiary races of the Rhino Ape. They were also the 3 strongest subsidiary races. One of the other 2 races was a subsidiary race of the Meng race. The other was a subsidiary race of the Glass race. If the 5 major races were to be looked at separately, they were not particularly strong. When they joined forces, they were huge. There were more than 100 experts who were infinitely close to the consummate level. They were not weaker than the experts of the Rhino Ape. The other 5 major races invited many righteous warriors to help them destroy the Rhino Ape. There were close to 100 righteous warriors. All of them were experts infinitely close to the consummate level. Furthermore, they were martial artists of 2 races. The Meng race and the Glass race issued an announcement for the 5-clan alliance and the Rhino Apes to exercise restraint. They asked everyone to talk rationally and not to start a war. They called for peace. They also emphasized that if the 2 sides had to fight, they might send troops to mediate at the crucial moment. Chapter 3591. The announcement of the Meng race and the Lu race rendered many warriors of the Tianyu galaxy speechless. Calling for peace? They had seen shameless people but never so shameless. Recently there were scouts everywhere. They were all spies. The 2 races had sent out more than 100 warriors close to the Absolute Realm to attack the Rhinoceros Ape. How could they call for peace? More than 200 powerful warriors and 10 million warriors swarmed over. Their battleships blotted out the sky and the earth. There was no end in sight. First of all, they attacked the outer universes and 3 in one go. The 3 universes didn't have any powerful warriors. All of them were sent to track Luli. The 3 universes were conquered effortlessly. Powerful warriors didn't even need to be mobilized. Cities were conquered one by one. The warriors were not in the mood to fight. They either fled or surrendered. When the low-level warriors heard the rumors, their morale plummeted. They thought the Rhinoceros Apes could be wiped out at any time. For the low-level warriors, it didn't matter who they followed. After all, they wouldn't be in need of food. Unstoppable. In 5 days, the Blood Heaven Alliance conquered 3 universes. Then, they didn't even have time to digest the 3 universes. The army moved on and attacked the 3 nearby universes. The army marched forward and conquered another 3 universes. The 3 universes didn't have powerful warriors close to the absolute realm as well. Reports came in. The rhinoceros apes retreated. All the armies and powerful warriors were transferred to the 10 universes near the rhinoceros ape region. It seemed that they were going to give up most of the universes and defend the 10 universes. Could they defend? This question appeared in the minds of countless martial artists. Since the outer perimeter couldn't withstand it, then the 10 outer boundaries definitely couldn't hold on either, right? What was the point even if they could defend the 10 universes? What was left of the rhinoceros apes when they lost hundreds of universes? Many scouts were mobilized to keep an eye on the situation or to witness the destruction of a super race. Many smaller races had begun to flee. They were afraid that they would be wiped out in the coming battle and used as cannon fodder. In any case, to them, wherever they went, they would be able to obtain a small piece of land, and their race would be able to survive. The Heaven Murder Alliance's army advanced rapidly, sweeping through 3 domains in 10 days. The rhinoceros ape race did not resist, and the domains quickly fell. Fortunately, the rhinoceros ape race controlled a lot of realms. It would take at least a few years for all of them to fall. After more than 2 months, the Heaven Murder Alliance didn't want to continue waiting like this. As long as they destroyed the rhinoceros ape tribe, it would be very easy to conquer these realms. If they didn't destroy the rhinoceros ape race, then there was no point in conquering these realms. It would be easy for the rhinoceros ape race to turn around and fight back. After some discussion, the Heaven Killer Alliance decided to attack the central region directly. They would attack the 10 boundaries that the rhinoceros ape tribe was defending and eliminate the rhinoceros ape tribe. The 5 great clans were also afraid that the experts of the rhinoceros ape race would escape. At that time, after recuperating for thousands of years, they would return to kill. The army majestically flew for more than a month and arrived outside the 10 realms. According to the scouts, the outermost realms of the 10 realms were guarded by large armies, and a large number of experts had gathered there. If they wanted to take down the 10 realms, they would have to go through a fierce battle. Attack the rhinoceros realm first. After the upper echelon of the Heaven Murder Alliance made a decision, they locked onto a realms and started attacking. Most of the experts killed their way in, and the army also entered by a few million. The rhinoceros ape race also mobilized a large number of experts and soldiers in this realms. There were more than 50 experts that were infinitely close to Paragon Realm. The battle started very quickly and it was abnormally intense. The rhinoceros ape race didn't defend a certain city. Their experts were scattered and the army was also scattered. They started to ambush, and assassinate from all directions. They were familiar with the terrain, and there were many places that were set up with all kinds of divine runes. When they suddenly attacked, the Heaven Murder Alliance suffered a great loss. However, the Heaven Murder Alliance had more soldiers and experts. After they increased their military strength and experts, the situation turned around. This battle lasted for half a month, and finally, all the experts of the rhinoceros ape race retreated. In this battle, there were casualties on both sides. The rhinoceros ape race lost more than 10 experts that were infinitely close to Paragon Realm, while the Heaven Murder Alliance lost more than 20 experts. The army of the rhinoceros ape race lost a few million, while the Heaven Murder Alliance lost 1 million. No matter what, it was the Heaven Murder Alliance's loss. The main reason was that the rhinoceros ape race had set up many divine runes to hide their experts. When they suddenly attacked, the Heaven Murder Alliance was caught unprepared and suffered heavy losses. However, the Heaven Murder Alliance was very satisfied with their victory in this battle. From this battle, it could be seen that the king of the rhinoceros ape race was very likely dead. Otherwise, he would have killed his way out long ago. Moreover, the morale of the rhinoceros ape race was indeed unstable. Once the situation went awry, they immediately thought of escaping and not fighting to the death. Therefore, the final victory would definitely belong to them. As long as they could win, it was nothing to lose some experts. How could there be no deaths in battle? The attack on the second realms was very smooth. The rhinoceros ape race only resisted one wave and killed 5 experts of the Heaven Murder Alliance. When they saw the experts of the Heaven Murder Alliance gathering, they immediately retreated. Next was the 3rd, 4th, 5th realms. After that, it was incomparably smooth. The rhinoceros ape race basically resisted one wave and saw if there was a chance to kill a few experts. If there was no chance, they immediately retreated. However, what caused the upper echelons of the Heaven Murder Alliance to have a headache was that the rhinoceros ape race had sent experts to assassinate the realms they had conquered. It was impossible for the realms they had conquered to not have troops guarding them, right? It was impossible not to leave 1 or 2 experts guarding them, right? The soldiers they left behind would suffer all sorts of assassinations every day. The experts left behind to guard the realms were also killed. This was something that could not be helped. These realms all belonged to the rhinoceros ape race. They had not had the time to digest them. If they did not exterminate the rhinoceros ape race or completely defeat them, the resistance and assassinations of these realms would not stop. Continue the attack. The Heaven Murder Alliance did not care about the realms they had conquered. The most important thing now was to first conquer the remaining realms and exterminate the rhinoceros ape race. Everything else was not a problem. This was the most important thing. The army coordinated and attacked the realms one by one. After 3 months, 9 realms had fallen. There was only one super large realm left, the rhinoceros realm. Almost all the experts had been mobilized. The Heaven Murder Alliance had urgently mobilized 10 million troops. In addition, there were more than 50 nameless volunteers as reinforcements. This was to make up for the experts who were infinitely close to the perfection realm that had died in battle. This time, the glass race and the Meng race were determined to destroy the rhinoceros ape race. At the same time, the race kings of the 2 races had been mobilized. However, they followed secretly and did not show themselves. Although the rhinoceros ape race king was rumored to be dead, and it seemed like that was the case, the 2 race kings still came to hold the line. That was because the rhinoceros ape race king was not dead. With 2 perfection realm experts, they were not afraid. The army continuously entered the rhinoceros ape race. The experts followed. The citizens of the rhinoceros ape race had actually decreased greatly. Many cities were empty. It seemed like they did not have any hope that the rhinoceros ape race could win this battle, and had all fled early. Many of the big cities were given up. The scouts found that all the army and experts had gathered in the rhinoceros ape city. When the higher-ups of the Heaven Murder Alliance received this news, their spirits were lifted. They ordered the army and experts to fly towards the rhinoceros ape city. Chapter 3592. Rhinoceros City was huge. This was the main camp of the rhinoceros ape race. After hundreds of thousands of years, it was naturally prosperous. This city had weathered countless storms. There had been 3 invasions from other races in history, and they had all reached Rhinoceros City. However, this city had always stood tall and had never been conquered. Rhinoceros City was the holy land of the rhinoceros ape race. As long as this place was not conquered, the rhinoceros ape race would not be exterminated and would continue to exist. Now that the 4th invasion had begun, and the rhinoceros ape race king seemed to have passed away, thus the rhinoceros ape race citizens felt unprecedented fear. If Rhinoceros City fell, then the rhinoceros ape race might be exterminated. The army pressed down on the city. Warships flew over from the horizon and pressed down on the city. It was like dark clouds covering the sky of Rhinoceros City. There were many citizens in the city. Most of them were rhinoceros ape race members. There were also some loyal vassal races. They had lived here for generations. Many of the older generation did not want to leave and were prepared to live and die with Rhinoceros City. Over 10 million soldiers, tens of thousands of warships, and countless experts released powerful auras that made the rhinoceros ape race citizens feel suffocated. There were over 10 million citizens in the city and millions of soldiers. The experts of the rhinoceros ape race and vassal races were all here. Moreover, they were all gathered on the city walls. When the experts of Murder Heaven Alliance saw that the elders of the rhinoceros ape race were all here, they were relieved. They were afraid that the experts of the rhinoceros ape race would run and hide in their secret realm. At that time, it would be troublesome to hunt them down. Now that they were all here, they could catch them all in one go. The higher-ups of Murder Heaven Alliance were not in a hurry to attack. A group of experts started to scout to see if there were any trap. They did not want to be tricked. After scouting for a while and finding nothing out of the ordinary, the leader of Murder Heaven Alliance gave the order to attack. There was a defensive formation outside the city. The millions of soldiers started to attack. This defensive formation was very strong. It was the strongest formation that had been refined and perfected by countless generations of rhinoceros ape race experts. Thus, this formation was exceptionally strong. The millions of soldiers attacked for several hours without any change. Experts, move out. The higher-ups of Murder Heaven Alliance gave the order. Countless experts that were infinitely close to absolute perfection joined in the attack. The formation's energy consumption increased, and one could clearly see that the formation's color was weakening. He estimated that the formation would be broken in a few days at most. Half of the 200 Supreme Experts had been mobilized. The remaining Supreme Experts were monitoring the situation from the side. They wanted to see if there were any unusual situations in the Rhino Ape tribe, especially if there were any unusual movements from the Supreme Experts. The Supreme Experts in the city were all very normal. Many elders of the Rhino Ape race had gloomy expressions, and there was fear in the depths of their eyes. However, there were even more elders whose eyes were filled with the desire to die, and they were prepared to fight to the death. Even the eyes of the Great Elder and the Second Elder were filled with the determination to die. It was as if they were waiting for the Great Protective Array to be broken so that they could start fighting to the death. He dragged some of the Heaven-Killing Alliance's experts down with him, destroying the Rhinoceros Ape City. The citizens in the city were also panicking. Some of the citizens' entire families were hiding in the cellars and hugging each other. It seemed like they wanted to make use of the cellars to escape from the Murder Heaven Union's pursuit. The entire city was filled with an aura of oppression, panic, and despair. This could not deceive anyone, let alone the upper echelon of the Heaven Murder Alliance. Hence, the upper echelon of the Murder Heaven Union was at ease. They were just waiting for the Great Protective Array to be broken and the battle to begin. They would then slaughter all the experts of the Rhinoceros Ape race and become the new chief. Day after day passed, and the Great Protective Array was getting weaker. The citizens in the city had also started to be mobilized. All the citizens were gathered at the north side of the city. A Great Protective Array had been built over there, and the citizens were all piled up inside. There wasn't even a place to sit. There wasn't a single expert or soldier in this Great Protective Array. The Rhinoceros Ape race's intention was very clear. They placed the citizens in this corner to prevent any accidental injuries. The Murder Heaven Union wouldn't go to the extent of killing those ordinary citizens. Otherwise, they would be mocked by the Heaven Universe Star Region's superfactions. Very good. Seeing that the Rhinoceros Ape race had started to make arrangements, the upper echelon of the Murder Heaven Union was even more at ease. This meant that the Rhinoceros Ape race was truly prepared to fight to the death and didn't have any arrangements. However, with so many eyes watching, it would be difficult to make any arrangements. Another 2 days passed, and the Great Protective Array was as thin as paper. The elders inside had all revealed their battle armors. They were also holding divine weapons or magic treasures in their hands, ready to attack at any time. A dark gray iron rod appeared in the hands of the rhinoceros ape race's chief elder. This iron rod was filled with a strange aura that was very oppressive. Sky Rod. After seeing this iron rod, the upper echelon of the Murder Heaven Union were all overjoyed. This iron rod was very famous. It was a sovereign divine weapon, the weapon of the rhinoceros ape race's king. Now, it appeared in the hands of the chief elder of the rhinoceros ape race. What did this mean? It meant that the king of the rhinoceros ape race was really dead. Otherwise, why would this iron rod be used by the chief elder? Later, let's join forces and kill the chief elder of the rhinoceros ape race first. The experts discussed for a while and decided to join forces to kill the chief elder of the rhinoceros ape race first. The chief elder was already half a step away from the full realm. With a sovereign divine weapon, his attack power would definitely be very frightening. Moreover, it was obvious that the chief elder was determined to die. If they didn't kill the chief elder, they would definitely have to pay a huge price. Boom! Finally, there was a shocking explosion. Then, the great protective array was broken. When the experts of the Murder Heaven Union were about to attack, there was a loud roar from a distance. Moreover, it was not from one direction, but from 4 directions at the same time. Kill! Loud roars sounded out from all directions as battleships tore through the air. There were soldiers on the battleships, and there were many powerful auras spreading out. At this moment, the Murder Heaven Union felt that they had fallen into an ambush. All the upper echelon of the Murder Heaven Union were shocked. They immediately scanned the area with their divine consciousness, trying to figure out where the reinforcements came from. They had mobilized so many scouts, but they didn't find any experts or armies nearby. Did these armies and experts appear out of nowhere? No. An expert shouted, "There are no experts on the battleship. Those experts are all fake. They are all Saint Emperors." Buzz! At this moment, the city lit up with dazzling light. Then, beams of light accurately locked onto the experts, who were infinitely close to full realm perfection. After those experts were enveloped by the light beams, they all vanished in midair. Instantly, over 100 experts who were infinitely close to full realm perfection vanished in midair. What's going on? The upper echelon of the Murder Heaven Union reacted, and were all shocked. Why did so many experts vanish all of a sudden? Could it be that all the experts who were infinitely close to full realm perfection were killed? What kind of horrifying formation was this? No, it's a teleportation formation. The upper echelon of the Murder Heaven Union soon realized that this was all a setup. The Rhino Ape race had been putting on a show to numb them. They teleported a portion of their experts away, and then killed the remaining experts with numbers. Kill! Bursts of roars came from the city. All the experts in the city rushed out and turned into sharp swords, stabbing into the army of the Murder Heaven Union. P.S. Seriously stuck. Only 1 chapter today. I will write it tomorrow and the day after. 3rd Sect Master. Chapter 3593. This plan of the rhinoceros apes was a model for the one Luli set up at the fan city of the Endless Ruins. Patriarch 4 and Patriarch 8 reported what happened at the fan city, and Chief Patriarch came up with this plan. Some of the powerful warriors would be teleported away, and the rest would be killed with their superior forces. Then, they would deal with the ones that were teleported away. As for the clan masters of the Meng race and the Glass race, Chief Patriarch didn't have to worry about them. The clan master of the rhinoceros ape race said he would deal with them, even though Chief Patriarch didn't know how his clan master would deal with 2 warriors at the absolute perfection realm. He trusted the clan master of the rhinoceros ape race. The clan master of the rhinoceros ape race only needed to carry out his orders and kill as many as possible of the warriors that were close to the absolute perfection realm. All the powerful warriors of the rhinoceros ape race and the affiliated races were gathered here. There were 230 of them in total. The Heaven-Killing Alliance had more than 300 warriors in total. However, more than 100 had been teleported away. Only about 100 were left. The Saint Kings were not a concern. 4 warriors that were close to the absolute perfection realm, not even tens of billions of warriors, let alone 10 million, would be enough. Therefore, as far as the patriarchs of the rhinoceros ape race were concerned, the only enemies were the warriors that were close to the absolute perfection realm. If they could kill those powerful warriors, then the battle would be won. 200 against 100, the other side would feel that they had fallen into a trap. Inevitably, they would panic and lose their morale. On the other hand, the rhinoceros ape race was prepared. Chief Patriarch had just sent a message saying that everything was under control. As long as they could kill the enemy warriors that were close to the absolute perfection realm, then the battle would be won for sure. Chief Patriarch did not spread the news that the clan master of the rhinoceros ape race was still alive. Only a small number of patriarchs knew about it. The army and the public had no idea. Otherwise, how could the more than 100 powerful warriors of the Heaven-Killing Alliance be teleported away so easily? This was what Luli did. First, they would put on a show to make the enemies lower their guard. Then, at the critical moment, they would send out some warriors and have some Saint Kings disguise themselves as powerful warriors to distract the enemies. In the end, they could use a special teleportation altar to teleport the enemies away. This was a simple plan. The difficult part was the acting. The first step was to make the enemies believe that they were going to defend to the death, and that there was no plan so that the enemies would lower their guard. Otherwise, the plan would not work when so many powerful warriors were on guard. Boom, 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 boom. Sounds of explosions and screams came from all directions. The rhinoceros ape race had more experts, and the Heaven Killer Alliance was in a bit of a panic. Therefore, the rhinoceros ape race's side immediately gained the upper hand. In a single exchange, they killed more than 10 experts that were infinitely close to the Paragon realm. The soldiers from within the city also charged out, and there were also reinforcements from outside. The situation immediately became very chaotic, and the Heaven Murder Alliance's dozen or so experts were killed. They were also in a mess, and they did not have any method to defend. They were completely suppressed by the rhino ape race. High up in the sky there were 2 experts. These 2 experts were tens of thousands of miles up in the sky, but the soldiers and experts below couldn't see them. These 2 were the tribe kings of the Meng tribe and the Glass tribe. Like the rhinoceros ape tribe, these 2 tribes only had one great perfection cultivator. The race leaders of the 2 races transmitted their voices to one another. This situation was causing them to be extremely worried. If they did not think of something, the situation down below would definitely collapse very soon. Their 2 races had many experts down below. If the situation collapsed, their experts would also be killed, and their 2 races would suffer heavy losses. The problem was that the other experts had been teleported away. Looking at the strength of the teleportation, they were probably teleported far away. They wouldn't be able to return for at least 2 hours. The battle below definitely wouldn't be able to last for 2 hours. At most, it would collapse in an hour. Perhaps some of the experts below could escape, but they would most likely lose this battle. After paying such a huge price, mobilizing troops, and expending a large amount of manpower, resources, all they got was a failure? This was something that the 2 tribe kings would definitely not allow to happen. They would also become the laughingstock of the entire Tianyu star field. Everyone in the Tianyu star field knew that they were the masterminds behind this matter. The problem was that they didn't have any troops to mobilize. Their tribes still had experts. If they mobilized all of them, they would be able to mobilize 200 to 300 experts that were infinitely close to the Paragon realm. Distant water couldn't put out a nearby fire. By the time the experts from the other side arrived, the corpses of the experts here would already be cold. They only had one method, and that was for them to make a move. A Paragon Realm expert attacking infinitely close to the Paragon Realm? This was a little embarrassing, and it would also damage their pride and self-esteem. If this matter was spread out, it would also be a blow to their reputation. They would become the laughingstock of many Paragon Realm experts. The Meng race and the Glass race attacked the Rhinoceros Ape race. When the Rhinoceros Ape race's tribe king had already fallen, the two races sent out Paragon Realm experts to eliminate the Rhinoceros Ape race. Thinking about this news spreading out, the two tribe kings' faces were a little hot. However, they thought that if they were defeated, they would also lose face. Since they were going to lose face anyway, they might as well make a move. If they didn't make a move, a large number of their elders would die. Finally, the two tribe kings discussed for a while and decided to launch a sneak attack. As long as they killed a few dozen Rhinoceros Ape race elders, the battle situation would immediately reverse. As long as they didn't reveal themselves, there wouldn't be any evidence left. They could also announce that it was a rumor. After the two tribe kings finished their discussion, they quietly flew to the left and right, respectively looking for opportunities to assassinate the Rhinoceros Ape race elders. To Paragon Realm experts, it was too easy to kill experts that were infinitely close to Paragon Realm. They had countless methods to silently kill them. The two Paragon Realm experts flew down from the left and right respectively. The Glass race's tribe king quickly sneaked into the battlefield on the right. He locked onto a Rhinoceros Ape race elder and quietly flicked out a finger wind. This Rhinoceros Ape race elder's back was immediately penetrated. Afterward, an expert nearby received the Glass race's tribe king's voice transmission and cooperated with the attack. This elder didn't even have time to react before he was killed. Not bad. The Glass race's tribe king was very satisfied. With such a sneak attack and the cooperation of their experts, the Rhinoceros Ape race wouldn't be able to find out. The situation was so chaotic now, and there were attacks everywhere. The attack he released was very hidden and hard to find. As long as the experts of the Rhinoceros Ape race couldn't find out, then his attack might not be exposed. This way, his reputation could be preserved. Kill the Rhinoceros Ape race's Grand Elder. The Glass race's elder locked onto the Rhinoceros Ape race's Grand Elder because the Grand Elder was very ferocious. He wielded the supreme divine weapon and had already killed 7 or 8 of their experts. If he could kill the Grand Elder, the Rhinoceros Ape race's morale would definitely plummet. He drifted over like a ghost. Although he was passing through the soldiers, they didn't notice him at all. The sky was full of attacks, but none of them could hit him. He quickly approached the Grand Elder and soon arrived there. The Grand Elder was fighting with 2 experts. After the Glass race's tribe king transmitted a message to the 2 experts, a faint murderous intent appeared on his face. He began to launch a sneak attack. Ha! Die, swish, just as he was about to unleash his attack. Over a dozen Rhino Ape race elders simultaneously unleashed powerful attacks at the area he was in. In addition, the space behind him was torn apart. Following that, a terrifying killing intent spread out from within. A dazzling golden spear stabbed towards his back with an aura that seemed to be able to pierce through everything. Golden spear? The Rhinoceros Ape race's tribe king. The Glass race's tribe king's eyes widened and his face was filled with fear. The Rhinoceros Ape race's tribe king wasn't dead at all. His combat ability was obviously several times stronger than before. Chapter 3594. The Lu race patriarch didn't care about the attacks from the surrounding Rhinoceros Ape race elders. Even if they could injure him a little, they wouldn't be able to kill him. It was unlikely that he would be severely injured. What truly frightened him was the long spear behind him. He could feel that the Rhinoceros Ape race patriarch's battle strength had obviously increased by several folds. He might be able to block this attack, but he would definitely be injured. The rhinoceros ape race patriarch was an expert of the older generation than him and the Meng race patriarch. His battle strength was originally stronger than them. Otherwise, the two races wouldn't have worked together to deal with the rhinoceros ape race. In the past, the rhinoceros ape race patriarch had always been suppressing them. If it wasn't because of the recent rumors that the rhinoceros ape race patriarch had died, they wouldn't have dared to act recklessly. The rhinoceros ape race patriarch's most famous weapon was the rod in the Grand Elder's hand. Hence, when the Grand Elder took out the rod, the Meng race and Lu race patriarch subconsciously thought that the rhinoceros ape race patriarch was really dead. After all, the rhinoceros ape race patriarch had lived for too long. His lifespan should be exhausted by now. At this crucial moment, the Lu race patriarch was a little flustered. He had two choices. One was to fight to the death. As long as he wasn't killed by the rhinoceros ape race patriarch, the Meng race patriarch would be the one to die when the perfected realm experts of the Meng race came to attack him. The other choice was to flee immediately. This way, he was confident that he could escape this place alive. In a split second, the Lu race patriarch chose to flee because he was afraid that he would be killed by the rhinoceros ape race patriarch if he stayed. The sudden increase in the rhinoceros ape race patriarch's battle strength had cast a shadow on him. Furthermore, this was all a scheme from the beginning to the end, a scheme set up by the rhinoceros ape race patriarch. Hence, the Lu race patriarch was a little flustered. He was afraid that he would be killed by the rhinoceros ape race patriarch. Boom! The long spear stabbed into the Lu race patriarch's back and exploded like a snowflake. His back was blasted into a bloody mess. However, his figure suddenly vanished when he was hit. The other elders' attacks all missed. The Lu race patriarch used a powerful mystical ability to escape. The battle here alarmed all the experts in the surroundings. The rhinoceros ape tribe king also appeared from the void. Although he looked old, he carried a golden long spear, and the majestic aura from his body made it hard for countless experts to breathe. The murderous aura on his body was extremely horrifying. It was like a sea of blood, causing many experts of the heaven-murdering union to shiver in fear. Patriarch! Clan King! Countless cries of alarm rang out. On one side there was fear and shock, and on the other side there was also shock, but there was also boundless joy. There were 3 large clans in the Heaven Killer Alliance that were originally the vassal clans of the Rhinoceros Ape Tribe. They feared the Rhinoceros Ape Tribe king to their bones. After many years of accumulated prestige, they all trembled at the sight of the Rhinoceros Ape Tribe king. Kill. The rhinoceros ape race's morale was greatly boosted. The rhinoceros ape race's king was still alive, and all of this was a trap set up by the rhinoceros ape race's king. They had no more misgivings, and all of them began to attack crazily. The Heaven Killer Alliance, on the other hand, was in a state of panic. Another few experts who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection Realm had died in this exchange. Meng Ji. The rhinoceros ape king looked in a direction and sneered. Let's go outside and fight? Or you can abandon the experts of your tribe and escape like Lu Gu. A figure appeared in the void. Since the rhinoceros ape tribe king had said so, what else could he do? Even if he had to die, he had to fight. Without saying a word, he flew up into the sky. The rhinoceros ape tribe king rushed up and left behind a sentence. Kill all enemies who invade in the future. 2 Great Perfection Realm experts flew out of this plane. If Great Perfection Realm experts attacked with full force, it would be too dangerous. Although the rhinoceros ape world was very large and stable, what if it collapsed? After the 2 Great Perfection Realm experts left, the battle here became even more intense. The morale of the rhinoceros ape tribe was greatly boosted. They wanted nothing more than to kill all the enemies. On the other hand, the Heaven Killer Alliance was unwilling to accept defeat. They fought with all their might, hoping for a chance to turn the tables. Unfortunately, the disparity in the number of experts was too great. In addition, the Great Elder had a supreme divine weapon, and the Great Elder's battle prowess was extremely terrifying. In less than an hour, the situation was basically stabilized. The Rhinoceros Ape tribe had won for sure. The remaining experts of the Heaven Killer Alliance were in despair. They actually had a chance to turn the tables, and that was for the Glass Race's king to come back. Unfortunately, the Glass Race's king never returned. Of course, they still had a glimmer of hope. That was for the Glass Race's king and the Meng Race's king to join hands and kill the Rhinoceros Ape tribe king. By then, they could still turn the tables. This was also one of the main reasons why they hadn't collapsed yet. After an hour, the Heaven Killer Alliance couldn't hold on any longer. More than half of their experts had died, and the rest were almost all injured. If they didn't retreat, they would all die here. In the end, the elders of the Glass Race were the first to retreat. Because their king had escaped with injuries, their morale was unstable. They were the first to think of retreating. Although the two clans participated in the battle, it wasn't an open war. Therefore, they weren't as determined as the Heaven Killer Alliance. Even if they lost, the foundation of the two clans wouldn't be harmed. Naturally, they wouldn't risk their lives. When the experts of the Glass Race suddenly retreated, the remaining experts panicked and followed them to escape. "Pursue them!" The Great Elder gave the order in high spirits. He also passed down an order: chase them all the way until we reach the territories of the Glass Race and the Meng Race. Try to kill all the enemies that come. Beat the Glass Race and the Meng Race to the brink of defeat and destroy the Heaven Murder Union. The Great Elder was very clear that after this battle, their king would probably pass away. Therefore, it was crucial whether they could win this battle or not. If they could win, they would be able to intimidate everyone and give the Rhinoceros Ape race a few hundred or even a few thousand years to develop. In a few hundred or a few thousand years, he and the Second Elder might have a chance to break through to the consummate realm. If they couldn't win, then this battle wouldn't have much meaning. The Rhinoceros Ape race was also facing a crisis of life and death. Even without the Great Elder's order, the experts of the Rhinoceros Ape race and the vassal experts were extremely depressed. They were constantly worried that their race would be annihilated and their loved ones would be killed. Now that the situation had reversed, they had gone from hell to heaven. They were all ecstatic. Not to mention chasing the Meng race and the Glass race. Even if they had to kill their way into the territories of the two clans, they wouldn't hesitate. The remaining dozens of experts fled in fear. At first, there was an organized retreat. Later on, they were chased too fiercely. They could only flee on their own. Some experts directly flew out of the Rhinoceros Ape race's territory. While they were retreating, those absolute experts who were teleported away were rushing over. Furthermore, they were rushing over one by one and clashing with those experts who were chasing them. These experts were all in a miserable state. The Great Elder had given the order to chase. It was a small team of 10 absolute experts, 10 against 1. Many of the absolute experts who rushed over as reinforcements didn't even understand the situation and were killed in an instant. After 3 days of intense battle, half of the 10 million strong army had retreated. More than half of the 300 experts who were infinitely close to the consummate realm had been killed. The remaining half were mostly injured, and some had lost contact with them. Only over 100 experts gathered outside the spatial zone. King. Among the over 100 experts, there were over 20 elders of the Meng race. One of the Meng race's elders suddenly let out a sorrowful roar. The rest of the Meng race's elders had a huge change in expression. Their eyes were filled with fear and grief. Just now, they all felt that their king's aura presence had suddenly disappeared. The Meng race had a special bloodline ability that allowed them to sense each other's presence. The disappearance of the Meng race's king meant that their king had perished. Third Patriarch. Chapter 3595. The Rhinoceros Ape Race's king used his remaining few years of life to increase his battle strength by several folds and successfully killed the Meng Race's king. The Glass Race's king was severely injured and didn't appear from start to end. This battle was more or less over. The Meng Race's experts were all dispirited. They didn't stay for too long and flew back as fast as they could. They didn't even have time to search for the Meng Race's king's corpse. Their king was dead, and their race was facing a huge crisis. If they didn't handle it well, the Rhinoceros Ape Race wouldn't perish, but they would. Once their king died, the entire race would be in such a situation. Once their king died, the entire race would be in danger. Countless eyes were staring at the position of the Overlord. Countless races would be tempted and would risk their lives. As long as they could eliminate them, they would be able to replace them. Furthermore, since he was an overlord, he would definitely rule over a region and would definitely have many enemies. If they didn't suppress a group of races, how could they show their position as the overlord? How could they intimidate the other races? Thus, the Meng race had a lot of enemies. After the Meng race's king died, those enemies would definitely flock over. Thus, the Meng race's most dangerous time was coming. How could this group of elders stay here for long? They had to rush back as fast as they could to discuss a good strategy and see how they could survive this huge crisis. Once the Meng race's experts left, the Glass race's experts panicked. Their king's life was in danger. Now that the Meng race's king was dead, they didn't dare to stay here anymore. Should they go back immediately? Once the two races' experts left, the Murder Heaven Union was dumbfounded. Originally, it was impossible for the Murder Heaven Union to defeat the Rhinoceros Ape Race. They relied on the support of the Meng race and the Glass race. Now that the Glass race and the Meng race retreated, they were in a dilemma. If they continued to attack, they would all die here. If they retreated, where could they retreat to? Retreat to the Meng race and the Glass race's territories? If they retreated, they would be safe? Retreat first. Finally, the upper echelons had a small meeting. If they continued to fight, they would be completely wiped out. If they retreated now, they would still be able to leave something behind. They would then migrate the entire race and have a chance to rise again. It was easy for the Glass race and the Meng race's experts to retreat, but it was difficult for them to retreat. They had so many troops and clansmen. Were they going to abandon them? With so many soldiers and clansmen dead, what was the point of them running back? The upper echelon of Murder Heaven Alliance had made a very stupid decision. This decision had caused them to suffer heavy casualties, and less than 10% of their experts had managed to escape. When the Rhinoceros Ape clan found out that the Heaven Killing Alliance had retreated with the army, they were instantly delighted. They were not in a hurry to chase after him. Instead, they mobilized their troops and began to make arrangements. They were able to teleport between the realms, so it was too easy for them to intercept the army. They did not send out their army and only gathered their experts to attack the army. They did not send out too many experts to prevent the Heaven Murder Alliance's experts from escaping. Instead, they sent out a portion of their experts and pretended to retreat after a round of attack. Every time they killed a few experts from the Murder Heaven Alliance who were infinitely close to the Paragon Realm, they were prepared to nibble them bit by bit until all the experts from the Murder Heaven Alliance remained. This strategy was good. As the Heaven Alliance retreated, the nearby domains would send a group of experts to intercept them. After killing for a while, they would retreat. Every time, they could take the lives of a few experts. It was like cutting meat. It wasn't fatal, but it could make the enemy bleed. The Rhino Ape King didn't appear again. If he attacked, the Heaven-Killing God Heaven Alliance's experts would be wiped out. The Rhino Ape King didn't chase them. He was in the Rhino Ape City with the second elder and 4 or 5 other important elders. They were kneeling in a castle. An old man sat on the throne in the castle's hall. It was the Rhino Ape King. His face wasn't pale at all. Instead, it was flushed. He looked a few years younger. The Grand Elder and the others knew that this was the final radiance of their king. It was a sickly beauty. Their king was about to pass away. He wouldn't be able to hold on for more than a few hours. The group of experts knelt on the ground, sobbing in grief. "Get up!" The Rhino Ape King waved his hand and said, "Birth, old age, sickness, and death is human nature. We comprehended the great Tao, seized the fortune of heaven and earth, obtained the essence of the sun and moon, and changed our fate to obtain such a long lifespan. What is there for us to be dissatisfied with? This king has lived for more than 300,000 years. To be able to reach the realm of perfection and do some things for our race, this king didn't come to this world in vain. Clan King, how is this something you've done? If it wasn't for you, our race would have been annihilated many times. King's contributions are great. In the history of our race, you are a rare sacred lord." That's right, that's right. King has boundless merits and can be called a sacred lord. King, the elders quickly said. The Rhino Ape King waved his hand to stop the group of experts from singing his praises. He said, "Meng-Ji has been killed by me. Meng tribe will fall into chaos for a short period of time. We might even face the danger of extinction. They will also help us attract a lot of hatred and attention. Therefore, our race should be safe for a short period of time. That old bastard from the glass race was also severely injured by me. I don't think he will be able to recover within 100 years as long as you don't expose the news of my death. Our race should be fine for a short period of time. The key is for you guys to work hard and cultivate with all your might. Try to reach perfection." Buzzing, the Rhino Ape King took out a scroll and gave it to Chief Elder. "This is my cultivation experience over the years and the process of reaching perfection. I hope it will be of some help to you. The path to the consummate level sometimes requires a bit of luck. If you gain enlightenment, then that's it. If you don't, then there's no point in trying anything. I'll give you a simple suggestion, and that is to purify your 6 essences and imitate nature." The experts all memorized it and looked like they understood something. Chief Elder and Second Elder were even more silent. These words moved them greatly. It was as if they had lit up a hazy light in the dark night and pointed them in the right direction. All of a sudden, the Rhino Ape King sighed and said, "I am not worried about the Meng race, the Glass race and the Heaven-Slaying Alliance. The only thing I am worried about is Luli. If he comes out of the Ice Valley and continues to attack, then he will be a nightmare for our race. Patriarch, how about we go and build more powerful runes to trap Luli in there? Patriarch, we can get some toxins to pour into the Ice Valley as well. Yes, we can put some poisonous insects in there. Anyway, there will be nowhere to hide in the Ice Valley. Try your best to kill Luli." Several patriarchs suggested. The Rhino Ape King said with a smile, "Do as you see fit. I will give you another piece of advice. If you can kill Luli, then try your best to do so. If you can't, once Luli comes out and starts to seek revenge, admit defeat. Admit defeat and ask for peace negotiations. Give Luli whatever he wants. Don't let him go on like this. All right, Chief Elder, as the 58th Patriarch of the Rhino Ape race, I hand over my position to you. I hope you can lead the Rhino Ape race to greater heights." The Rhino Ape King's voice grew softer and softer until it disappeared completely. His chi and energy were fading as well. A supreme warrior had passed away. Third Master. Chapter 3596. The Chief Patriarch of the Rhinoceros Ape race had fallen and the Chief Patriarch became the new one. Even though the patriarchs of the Rhinoceros Ape race were grieving, the crisis was not over yet. They had to swallow their sorrow. They put the body of the Rhinoceros Ape race's master into a jade coffin and sealed it in a secret room. They built many seals and blocked off the news. Only 5 patriarchs of the entire race knew about the death of the Rhinoceros Ape race's master. The other patriarchs wanted to keep it a secret, otherwise the news would spread. Chief Patriarch asked Second Patriarch to assume command. Then, he organized the hunt for the powerful warriors of the Murder Heaven Union in person. Some of the powerful warriors of the Murder Heaven Union were still on the run. Chief Patriarch wanted all of them to stay. This was not only revenge against the 5 major races formed by the Murder Heaven Union, but also a deterrent to the other races of the universe region. Those that dared to invade the rhinoceros ape race must be prepared to be wiped out. At the same time, Chief Patriarch asked Third Patriarch to take charge of dealing with Luli. There was no doubt that Luli was powerful and horrifying. If Luli was allowed to escape from the Ice River Valley, then there would be endless troubles. Chief Patriarch meant that Luli must be killed at all costs. They could spend a lot of money to buy poisons and poisonous creatures. Anyhow, they must turn the Ice River Valley into a land of death and let Luli die in there. Third Patriarch understood the importance of this matter. He gathered people to gather information about poisonous creatures and strange things. At the same time, he mobilized 2 of the best warriors of the race in the field of divine glyphs to build another formation. Several powerful divine glyphs sealed off the Ice River Valley completely. Poisonous creatures were easy to find. In just half a month, Third Patriarch had found many poisonous creatures. There were many places in the universes under their control that contained poisonous creatures. For example, there was a pond in a universe with a radius of 30 miles. Not a blade of grass grew in the pond. Any living being that got close would die. Even powerful saint emperors would be poisoned if they stayed near the pond for a long time. If they accidentally fell in, the saint emperors would turn into bones. Also, Third Patriarch learned about a kind of undead insect. It was said that it was invisible and colorless. Once 10,000 undead insects entered a body, even a warrior that was infinitely close to the consummate realm would die. This kind of goo worm was raised in captivity by a vassal tribe, but only a few 100,000 of them had been bred, and they were still looking for ways to mass reproduce them. Third Elder immediately set out, fetching a treasure and bringing it to the pool. He had tested the poison, and it was indeed extremely tyrannical. He personally placed his hand into the pool, and his hand actually instantly turned into white bone. It was extremely terrifying. He used this treasure to take away all the venom in the pool. Then, he went to the race that owned the goo worms. He paid a huge price and gave them a large piece of land to buy most of the goo worms. By the time he arrived at the Ice River Valley, the divine inscriptions here were more or less complete. In order to prevent the venom from freezing, the Third Elder had the 2 ancestors set up a divine inscription to seal the entrance of the cave to prevent the cold air from leaking out. Next, he released the venom and filled the entire Ice River Valley with it. Then, he threw the goo worms into the venom. The goo worms were freakish. They were not poisoned to death in the venom. Instead, they swam around happily like fish in water. What astonished Third Patriarch was that in just a couple of days, the number of goo worms had doubled. That vassal tribe had been looking for a long time but could not find a way to breed the goo worms quickly. Now, by sheer luck, they had succeeded several powerful divine inscriptions. The venom and the goo worms were equivalent to several layers of protection. Third Patriarch was relieved. He left 2 ancestors to guard here. As long as there was no proof that Luli was dead, the 2 ancestors would stay here. It turned out that if Luli wanted to come out, he must crack the formation first. As soon as he did so, the 2 ancestors would notice, and they could come over at once. Luli did not know if their family patriarch was dead or alive. He would not crack the formation so easily. If Luli could be trapped here for hundreds or thousands of years, then the rhinoceros ape race's crisis would be over. Maybe there would be 1 or 2 warriors at the consummate realm of the rhinoceros ape race. When Luli came out, they would have nothing to be afraid of. Great Elder's side was very successful. In the end, only 30 or so experts from Murder Heaven Alliance managed to escape, and more than half of the soldiers were killed. This matter caused a huge uproar in the Tianyu Star region, especially the death of the Meng tribe leader, which shook the entire Tianyu Star region. It was very difficult for a great perfection deity to die. News of a great perfection deity dying would only appear once in many years, and it was even more difficult for a great perfection deity to be killed. The last time it happened seemed to be more than 6,000 years ago. Who would have thought that another perfection paragon would be killed? The rhinoceros ape race king, who had been silent for thousands of years, once again drew his sword and caused the entire sky universe star field to fall silent out of fear. The rhinoceros ape tribe was indeed safe. At least for the time being, no large tribe would dare to target them. The Meng clan and the Glass clan had joined hands, but the outcome was so tragic. How could the other clans or forces dare to take the risk? Besides, they had no enmity with the rhinoceros ape tribe, and they were so far away from each other. Why would they make trouble out of nothing? The Meng tribe was in a miserable state. Although the intelligence reports indicated that there were no tribes or forces that wanted to attack the Meng tribe did not dare to do so. However, the Meng clan felt that there were enemies on all sides. There was an undercurrent, and countless hungry wolves would pounce on them from all directions, tearing them apart. A great perfection deity of a super-large race had suddenly died, and many of their elders had also died. They were like dragons without a leader, and the morale of the army had dropped drastically. It was like a beautiful woman walking alone in the wilderness, surrounded by a group of old hooligans. The Grand Elder did not bring his formidable martial artists to kill his way into the Meng clan and the Glass clan's territories. Instead, he chased all the invaders out and called a truce. The Murder Heaven Union had 3 large races that used to be their vassal races. Apart from a small number of their clansmen who managed to escape, the rest were all killed. All the domains that had been attacked had been recovered. The situation on the rhinoceros ape race's side was very good. Countless martial artists were calling for the rhinoceros ape race king to lead an army to attack the Meng clan and the Glass clan's domains, to take revenge on the 2 races. Especially the Meng clan. Now that their race king had died, they were like dragons without a leader. It was the best time to attack them. Even though the chief patriarch had become the new race king, he was still the chief patriarch to the public. He issued an announcement. The Meng clan and the Glass clan must give them an explanation, or else they would go on an expedition until the 2 races were completely wiped out. Naturally, the chief patriarch was not really going to attack the 2 races. He was just bluffing. In this way, the Meng clan and the Glass clan would not expose their weakness. He believed that the 2 races would give in and apologize to the Meng clan and offer a large number of treasures to appease the rhinoceros ape race. As soon as the chief patriarch sent out the messengers, the Meng clan knelt down at once. They didn't say that they would give the rhinoceros ape race whatever they wanted, but their message was clear. As long as the rhinoceros ape race didn't start a fight, everything was negotiable. The Meng clan and the Meng clan were willing to atone for the crimes they had committed. The Glass clan didn't reply right away, but their tone was kind. They were trying to say that it was a misunderstanding and that they were neighbors. There was no need to fight over such a trivial matter. Chief Patriarch didn't care about the matter between the 2 races. The 2 races could barely take care of themselves. They were no longer a threat to the rhinoceros ape race. As long as the news of their race king's death was not exposed, the race king of the Glass clan wouldn't have the courage to come. What Chief Patriarch was worried about was Luli. It had been a long time since Luli did anything. What was he doing? How could he hide in the Sumeru space for such a long time? P.S. Chapter 4. 3 Masters. Chapter 3597. Luli was not in the Shumi space. He was cultivating in the realm of magic. He had lost track of time because he had been cultivating. He had planned to leave in half a year. It had been almost a year. Recently, he had been studying the laws in the Gong Huang Ding, and he had made some progress. At this rate, he would achieve great success. It was easy to lose track of time in cultivation. Luli had decided to stay in the realm of magic for a while. Another month passed. Finally, Luli stopped cultivating. He had reached a bottleneck in studying the laws in the Gong Huang Ding. He had to stop. The first thing he did was to check the realm of magic. There were some changes. He took a look around and fell asleep. It had been a long time since he could relax. He planned to rest for a couple of days. After sleeping for 3 days, Luli woke up. He calculated the days and realized that he had been in there for almost a year. Theoretically speaking, the master of the rhinoceros race would not be waiting outside. The Lu race and the Meng race should be attacking. The master of the rhinoceros race must have gone back. Luli thought about it and used the trace of Great Tao to check outside. Even if the master of the rhinoceros race was waiting nearby, he could not go into the realm of magic to kill Luli. After a while, Luli was surprised. He realized that the cave entrance was sealed off by runes. The Ice River Valley was filled with venom? There were many more runes outside the Ice River Valley. There were 3 or 4 seals. Somehow, Luli was relieved to see this. Clearly, the Ice River Valley was here to prevent him from running away. In other words, the master of the rhinoceros race was not here. Otherwise, why would there be such a need? Of course, it was possible that the master of the rhinoceros race was trying to lure Luli out. Venom did not matter. Luli was not afraid of it. Instead, he could absorb it and use it as a weapon to kill people. It did not matter how many runes there were. Blood Fairy could crack them all. More importantly, as soon as Blood Fairy cracked the formation, the 2 powerful warriors guarding outside would know. By then, the master of the rhinoceros race would come. Or, the 2 powerful warriors would find a way to kill Blood Fairy. In that case, it would be difficult for Luli to crack the formation on his own. How can I get out? Luli was troubled. As long as he could escape, he would not make the same mistake again. He would not give the master of the rhinoceros ape race a chance to trap him. He continued to search the cave to see if the rhinoceros ape tribe king was hiding inside. Luli did not find anything after a couple of hours. He said to Blood Fairy, "Go and set up a formation to cover the caves nearby. See if there are any living beings in hiding." Shio. Luli dashed out. Blood Fairy flew out and Luli went back to the Dharma realm. He had been sensing his surroundings the whole time, but he didn't find anything out of the ordinary, so he came out rashly. Blood Fairy quickly set up the spell formation. It took her 1 day to set up a super spell formation. Buzz, the formation glowed. A strange energy spread out in the cave. After a moment, Blood Fairy said directly to Luli's mind, "Master, as far as I can tell, there are no living beings around here." Luli nodded. The next second, Blood Fairy said, "Master, psychic power is coming. It has locked onto me. I think it is the 2 powerful warriors outside the Ice River Valley." The 2 warriors who were infinitely close to the consummate realm opened their eyes at this moment. They were still standing on the cliff above the ice river, gazing into the direction of the cave. They were excited. They had been waiting here for so long. Was Luli finally coming out? Luli used the trace of Tao to check. Unfortunately, the distance was too far for him to see the 2 warriors that were very close to the consummate realm. Luli did not go out rashly. He thought for a while and told Blood Fairy to continue to set up the runes, defensive ones. After spending half a day, Blood Fairy finished setting up the spell. Light curtains appeared, isolating the entire cave. There were 5 light curtains in total. They looked like 5 doors standing in the cave. Luli dashed out. He released the traceless way so that the two rhinoceros ape warriors could not see him. Luli stood there for a while after he came out. The rhinoceros ape tribe king did not show up. Luli was relieved. The rhinoceros ape tribe king must have left. If the rhinoceros ape tribe king was here, he would have attacked Luli. Even though he was sure that the rhinoceros ape tribe king was not here, Luli did not act rashly. It would take time to solve the runes. There were so many of them, and some of them were powerful. It would take him half a month to a month to solve them. By then, the rhinoceros ape tribe king would have enough time to set up a trap and kill Luli. Luli thought about it for a while. Eventually, he turned to the depth of the cave. If he could stand the coldness, would he have a chance to go deeper? What if there was a passageway in the depth? Then, he would have a chance to escape. This was a way out or a dead end. The coldness in the Ice River Valley was too cold. Even the rhinoceros ape tribe king said that Luli could not stand it. Let's see. Luli told Blood Fairy to go into the interspatial artifact. He walked in slowly. At the same time, he secretly used the realm of magic to see if he could absorb the coldness. Theoretically speaking, coldness was a form of energy. But the realm of magic could absorb all kinds of energy. Is it working? A moment later, Luli was overjoyed. The coldness was absorbed into his body, and then he went into the realm of magic. Even though the muscles in his abdomen were frozen, he could not feel the coldness anymore. He moved slowly, faster and faster. What? The two rhinoceros ape warriors had been checking. They could not find Luli, but they did notice something strange. They noticed the runes Blood Fairy had built and the change in the coldness in the Ice River Valley. All of the coldness was moving toward one direction, and then, they all disappeared. It was as if all the coldness in the cave was gathering toward the center, and then vanishing without a trace. Luli moved on quickly. The coldness in the cave was becoming more and more horrifying. But it did not affect him. His blood was flowing, and he could use his source energy. His soul was fine. All the coldness had been absorbed by the realm of magic and condensed into a mass. 30 miles, 250 miles, 300 miles. The two rhinoceros ape warriors could no longer sense him. Luli had gone too deep into the cave. They could only faintly sense the movement of the coldness. The two rhinoceros ape warriors looked at each other, speechless. Did Luli go to the deepest part of the Ice River Valley? The cave extended underground. The deeper he went, the colder it was. There was not a single ray of light in the cave. Luli was nervous. If the realm of magic could not absorb the coldness, he would turn into an ice sculpture in an instant. His life would be frozen and he would die right away. He felt he was walking on a cliff with an abyss on both sides. One wrong step and he could be smashed into pieces. How long was the tunnel? Where would it lead to? Luli had no idea. What was in the deepest part of the cave when the coldness was so horrifying? Nothing was imaginable. Move. Now that he had come this far, Luli decided not to worry too much. He would see it to the end. Master 3. Chapter 35-98. 2,000 miles, 3,000 miles. Finally, Luli reached the bottom. He found the source of the cold air. It was a cold pond with white liquid in it. The pond was not large. There was nothing else at the bottom of the cave apart from the pond. Well, there are some elixirs. Luli saw some elixirs growing near the pond. The elixirs that could grow in a place like this must be the best, even in the immortal region. But Luli was not happy at all. Instead, he was disappointed. He had risked so much to come here to find an exit. No matter how good the elixirs were, what would be the point if he was trapped here until he died? He looked around. He could not use psychic power in the pond, and there was nothing around. The walls of the cave were made of rocks that had been frozen for so many years. Luli couldn't crack them even if he attacked with all his strength. He didn't find an exit. Apart from the elixirs, there was only the pond. There were no powerful beasts here either. Luli walked over and put away the elixirs. Then, he sat by the pond with his legs crossed and began to use the mark of Great Path. Soon, he had an idea. He found a cave at the bottom of the pond which seemed to be a connecting tunnel. Is this a connecting tunnel? If so, where does it lead to? Is the frigid pond here because of this passageway? Many thoughts popped up in Luli's mind. He found a tunnel, but he didn't dare to act rashly. He could absorb the cold air, but who knew if something would go wrong when he entered the pond? What if he was frozen directly? Then he would have to stay here for the rest of his life. Luli kept on trying. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he was still not sure. The pond was only 2 miles deep and with a radius of thousands of feet. Luli could not use psychic power, but he could see everything clearly after he used the mark of Great Path. There was an opening at the bottom of the frigid pond. The frigid pond and even the ice river valley were formed because of this opening. Luli could feel the cold air coming out from the opening. He had thought that the pond was the source of the cold air. It seemed that it was not so. The tunnel was the real source. Should he go in or not? This was a problem. If they entered, they might have a chance to find a way out. However, there was a higher chance that they would die inside. They might even die inside the cold pond. Luli was deep in thought. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he stood up, making up his mind. He decided to take a gamble. More importantly, he had faith in the realm of magic. Since the cold chi could be absorbed, the frigid pond was also formed by the cold chi. Regardless of whether it was liquid, gas, or even solid, it was essentially energy. The Dharma realm could absorb the cold chi, so the frigid pond shouldn't be able to do anything to it. The traceless blade appeared in his hand and he activated his origin energy. Then, he reached out with his other hand and slowly reached into the lake. He was prepared to chop off the arm if it resisted the cold chi. If the arm was cut off, it could be regrown, but if the whole body was frozen, it would be over. His arm slowly approached and finally entered the cold pond. A terrifying cold current immediately surged into his arm. However, the Dharma realm was operating furiously at that moment and the cold was instantly absorbed into the Dharma realm. It did not stay in his arm at all. Thus, although his arm was bone-piercingly cold, it was not frozen, nor did it receive too much damage. Not bad. Luli's confidence was boosted. He stepped into the frigid pond and his entire abdomen was submerged. A large amount of cold entered Luli's body and was absorbed quickly. Luli stopped moving. It was difficult for him to move even if he wanted to. His legs were covered by the cold and numb. Ha ha! Luli didn't want to move either. He absorbed all the cold and would enter the tunnel after the frigid pond disappeared. The cold was good stuff. After he absorbed it and refined it, the power would be horrifying. Warriors that were infinitely close to a perfect warrior would be frozen to death by the cold. Wait, Luli suddenly thought of something. Not even the master of the rhinoceros ape race dared to come in. Did it mean that not even the master of the rhinoceros ape race could stand the cold in the depth of the cave? In other words, if Luli used the cold to sneak up, could he freeze a perfect warrior? Did that mean he had the power to kill a perfect warrior? I am overthinking it. Soon, Luli shook his head with a bitter smile. He was indulging in wild fantasies. How could he kill a perfect warrior? Only an idiot would stand there and let Luli freeze him with the cold. Perfect warriors could control forces in heaven and earth, and could suppress Luli with a thought. Luli wanted to sneak up on a perfect warrior? Luli had just decided to kill, and he would be stopped by a perfect warrior. The cold was useful and Luli would not miss it. He was not in a hurry anyway. He had used a lot of flames and divine liquid of destruction, and he was worried about not having more powerful means. Now that he had a new one, he would not miss it. He planned to absorb all the cold. The frigid pond was not large, but there was a lot of cold energy. The pond was formed by the liquefaction of cold air. One drop of cold liquid could produce thousands of strands of cold air. In Lu Li's Dharma realm, there was only a mass of cold air. Now it had turned into a cloud. When all the cold air was absorbed, the cloud would become a sea of clouds. The frigid pond was not large, but it contained a lot of energy. Even though the Dharma realm was working hard to absorb the energy, it still took Lu Li 17 days to absorb all the water. The frigid pond was gone. Lu Li stood at the entrance at the bottom. The entrance was like a tunnel from hell to the human world. Cold air kept coming out from below. Lu Li flew down slowly. This passageway extended downwards in a straight line. It had a circumference of about 3 meters, and the walls were covered in ice. It was obvious that they were hard and indestructible. 5,000 miles? 300,000 miles? 500,000 miles? Lu Li did not know how long he had been flying down. Finally, he saw a glare. His surroundings lit up. Finally, he had reached the end of the tunnel. He did not move around after he went down. Instead, he made sure that the Dharma realm was absorbing the cold air. If he stopped, he might be frozen to death. After making sure that everything was fine, Lu Li looked around. He took a casual look and was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. The place where he appeared was a ruin. This ruin was at the peak of a huge mountain, and this mountain was surrounded by a bottomless abyss. There was nothing on the mountain except for the ruins of a palace. Half of the palace had collapsed, but the other half was not destroyed. Lu Li was astonished to see that the palace was not destroyed. It was magnificent and magnificent. The palace was tens of thousands of feet high. Standing in the ruins in front of the palace, Lu Li felt like he was an ant standing in front of a cabin. Ancient, vicissitudes, everlasting, vast. Lu Li sensed many mysterious qi and energy in the ruined palace. He felt he was a child among mortals walking to a hall where gods live. The feeling of insignificance and powerlessness was particularly strong. Where is this? Lu Li couldn't help but murmur. He had been to a few of the 8-star regions, and he had also been to the immortal region. However, this was the first time he had seen such a majestic and domineering palace. Even the palace where the Eastern region king resided wasn't as majestic as this. Third Master. Chapter 3599. Lu Li was experienced and knowledgeable, but this was the first time he had seen a palace like this. The palace was in ruins, but Lu Li felt he was looking at a miracle. Lu Li did not move around. He continued to observe. He noticed that the cold air was coming from inside the palace. He was standing in a ruined side chamber. Behind him was a dark cave. He must have come out from this cave. He could also see that the surrounding cold air was converging towards the entrance of the cave, and was continuously flowing into it. The cold air is coming from the main hall. Lu Li turned to the half-collapsed main hall. He saw many divine glyphs in many places. Though many divine glyphs were destroyed, there were still some that remained. The patterns were complicated. Lu Li could not understand them after a few glances. Blood Fairy, go and check the divine patterns. Be careful of the cold air in the main hall. Let me know if you can't stand it. Lu Li let Blood Fairy out. He did not dare to act rashly. This place was dangerous. One careless move and he could lose his life here. Therefore, it was better to check first. It was always good to be careful. A moment later, Blood Fairy sent back a message. Master, the divine patterns here are so strong. I have never heard of them. Unbelievable. Wow. Master, I have to stay here for a while. The divine patterns here are very useful to me. Too strong, too strong. Blood Fairy was so excited that she could not speak coherently. Lu Li was even more curious. What kind of place was this if the divine patterns here were so strong? Was this a place where those who had reached the consummate realm lived in seclusion? But if the divine patterns here were so strong, why was the palace destroyed? Who did it? Was it another consummate realm? Before Blood Fairy had a clear look, Luli would not take any reckless actions. He used the trace of Tao himself and used psychic power to check the surroundings. He noticed a problem. The space around the mountain was enveloped by a strange energy. That energy gave him a horrifying feeling, like a storm of energy. If he were not careful enough, he would be shredded into pieces. Blood Fairy searched for half a day before she transmitted her voice. Master, the situation here is a little complicated. Many places are dangerous, and the interior of the palace is even more dangerous. I don't understand the divine inscriptions inside, let alone decipher them. Also, you absolutely can't go out of the mountain. The divine inscriptions outside are also abnormally terrifying. Luli's heart skipped a beat. Blood Fairy would never lie. She said that she could not understand the divine inscriptions. In that case, it would take him decades or hundreds of years to decipher the divine inscriptions. He could not afford the wait. He asked, and Blood Fairy pointed out some safe places. She even showed Luli around. Luli walked around the palace and exclaimed to himself. The materials used in the palace were precious, something he had never seen before. Even though the palace had been destroyed, he could tell that the decorations here were exquisite, more than what Luli had ever seen. What realm is this? Luli looked around. All he could see was a vast expanse of fog. He could not tell what was going on. Blood Fairy had said that they could not leave the mountain or they would be killed. Luli could not act rashly. What should we do? Standing outside the main hall, Luli was confused. He was here to find a way out. Little did he know that he would end up in such a place. He could not go anywhere else. The main hall was filled with powerful divine inscriptions. He dared not to go in. The other side halls were almost destroyed. In other words, this place was not meaningful. It would not be helpful for him to leave. Blood Fairy, go and study the divine inscriptions. See if you can decipher them. You just need to find a way and let me in. Luli said. If you cannot learn it in a short time, write it down as much as you can and study it later. I understand, Master. Blood Fairy went back to the main hall. Luli sat outside and continued to study the divine inscriptions in the Gong Huang Ding. He could not move forward or backward. He had to wait. This was a mountain of treasures. He would not be happy to go back empty-handed. Right. A moment later, Luli remembered something. He asked Blood Fairy to set up the divine inscriptions at the entrance. What if the master of rhinoceros race found the ice river and came in? If that happened, Luli would die without knowing why while he was cultivating. Luli could seal the entrance with some divine inscriptions. When the master of rhinoceros race came, Luli could enter the realm of magic at once. When Blood Fairy was done, Luli began to cultivate. The swirl in his realm of magic kept spinning. All the cold air around was sucked into the realm of magic. Luli was not harmed at all. Holding the Gong Huang Ding in his hand, Luli began to study. Blood Fairy, on the other hand, happily entered the main hall. She wandered around the powerful divine inscriptions, trying to comprehend the divine inscriptions that she had never heard of before. While Luli was cultivating in peace, Lord Li and the others were anxious, and so were the leaders of the God of Death's branch. Luli had been missing for a year. Though his jade talisman of life was still intact, there had been no news of him. Now that the rhinoceros race had won, they were even more anxious. They had some information. For example, Lu Li's last disappearance was in the ice river. The ice river had been sealed off for a year. The God of Death even sent some of their best scouts to the ice river, but they were all killed by the patriarchs stationed here. Lord Li wanted to come in person, but the rhinoceros race seemed to be alerted. They sent over a dozen powerful warriors. As soon as Lord Li came in, he was almost caught. He had no choice but to flee. The headquarters of the God of Death was concerned about Lu Li's whereabouts. Lu Li was too important to the God of Death. Several leaders of the God of Death sent a message, asking them to find out as soon as possible. If help was needed, the 9 leaders would mobilize more powerful warriors to rescue him. The headquarters of the God of Death were not the only ones concerned about Lu Li. The higher-ups of the rhinoceros race were concerned as well. On the surface, there were 2 senior warriors guarding here, and 3 patriarchs were lurking in the dark. The rhinoceros race had stabilized the situation. The Meng race had become the center of the storm. The clan leader of the Glaze race was in closed-door cultivation. The clan leader of the rhinoceros race had not made a move for thousands of years. Once he made a move, he could kill a warrior at the absolute realm and injure another one. Some powerful warriors suspected that the clan leader of the rhinoceros race would not be able to live for long. That being said, nobody dared to take any action before they learned that the clan leader of the rhinoceros race was dead. What was more, the other races were keeping an eye on the Meng race. The territory of the Meng race was not smaller than that of the rhinoceros race. Therefore, no other races were in charge of the rhinoceros race. The chief patriarch of the rhinoceros race had told the race to rest and build up strength. He provided a large amount of resources to train the younger generations and enhance their abilities. The only thing that worried the chief patriarch of the rhinoceros race was Lu Li. Recently, Lu Li had been acting strangely, which worried the chief patriarch even more. The chief patriarch was afraid that Lu Li would kill his way out, make a big fuss and ruin the good situation of the rhinoceros race. Kill Lu Li at all costs. This was the order given by the chief patriarch recently. Only with Lu Li's death could the rhinoceros race stabilize and have hundreds or thousands of years of development. P.S. 4 chapters tomorrow. 3 patriarchs. Chapter 3600. Time zipped by. Soon, 5 years had passed. Lord Li and the others were eager to explore, but the rhinoceros race had sent some patriarchs to the ancient rhinoceros realm. Once Lord Li and the others went in, they would be hunted down by the rhinoceros race. The rhinoceros race had sent many scouts to track them down. They had to run or else they would all be killed. Lu Li had been cultivating over the years. He could not go out anyway, so he had been cultivating quietly in there. He had been making rapid progress in the laws inside the Gong Huangding. He thought he might as well cultivate until he was done. Blood Fairy had been studying divine glyphs in the Gong Huangding. She did not disturb Lu Li when he was cultivating. Lu Li had made some progress with the laws inside the Gong Huangding. Over the years, his progress was even faster. He was only half a step away from complete mastery. The reason why he could learn the laws so quickly was because of the spiritual connection between him and the Gong Huangding. The Gong Huangding was a supreme weapon, a relic with intelligence. Through the Gong Huangding, Lu Li could have a clearer understanding of the laws inside. This strange world was quiet as well. It was eerily quiet. There was no sound. The coldness here was horrifying. It would come out from the main hall at all times. If it were not for the fact that Lu Li's state of Dharma was operating all the time to absorb the coldness, he would have been frozen into a popsicle. The coldness in Lu Li's state of Dharma had gathered. The clouds had turned into a sea of clouds. Some of the coldness had been condensed by the state of Dharma into some pure white coldness that was similar to divine liquid. As for the power, Lu Li did not know. He would have to experiment to find out. Time zipped by. Soon, 3 years had passed. Finally, Lu Li woke up. He had learned all the rules in the Gong Huangding. He was exhausted after several years of closed-door cultivation. He didn't even have the time to check around. Instead, he dashed into the Dharma realm. He fell asleep inside the Dharma realm. After sleeping for a few days, His body flashed out of the Dharma realm. The strange ruins looked the same. Nothing had changed. After a while, Luli said to Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, I think it has been many years. How is it?" Blood Fairy transmitted her voice over. "Master, I've improved tremendously in the field of divine inscriptions. The divine inscriptions here are too strong, far beyond my understanding. Many of the divine inscriptions in the two halls near the main hall are broken. I've already deciphered a small part of them and found a few safe paths. Do you want to come in and take a look? There seems to be some wonderful places inside." "Oh, of course," Luli was interested. He said at once, "Quick, show me the way. Show me around." Blood Fairy dashed out and led Luli into the hall. In front of the main hall, there were many broken divine glyphs. Many of the divine glyphs were horrifying. Luli could not afford to take one wrong step. One wrong step could lead him into a bottomless abyss. He carefully walked around the plaza in front of him. There were many collapsed stone pillars in front of the plaza, as well as many sculptures. Most of them were broken and collapsed. One of the corners of the plaza was even shattered, and he could still see the densely packed divine runes inside. Luli went around the plaza and entered the main hall. The front of the main hall had collapsed. Half of the main hall was covered up. Luli could not see inside. Luli followed Blood Fairy to a corner. Inside, he could see many places were covered in mist. Many parts of the main hall were covered up. Luli could not see anything. He could not even use psychic power. "Those are divine glyphs. Do not touch them. You can trigger formations of destruction," Blood Fairy explained. Then, she led Luli in. Since Blood Fairy knew the way, she knew it. Luli followed her. Then, they came to a side door. Luli was surprised. "Are we not going to the main hall?" He had entered the main hall. Unfortunately, most of the main hall was covered in mist. He could not see inside. He could not sense anything even with the trace of Tao. All he could sense was a blur. Luli had thought that Blood Fairy would bring him to the main hall. Unexpectedly, they went to a side hall. "Main hall," after a pause, Blood Fairy said, "the divine glyphs in the main hall are too strong. I cannot solve them even if I study here for hundreds of years. I am only able to come here because many divine glyphs have been destroyed. Otherwise, you would not be able to come in." "Oh, I see." Luli was disappointed. The main hall was the largest, with a radius of 300 miles. Only half of the main hall had collapsed. The other half was still intact. There must be something valuable in the main hall. The cold air must have come from the main hall. It was a pity that there was no way to go in. Luli followed Blood Fairy into a corridor on the side. After a few more miles, they arrived at a side hall. Over half of the side hall had been destroyed. Only a small part of it was still intact. On one of the collapsed walls, Luli saw the words, "Ice Cloud Shop." The words were written in an ancient style. Luli could understand them. There was something special about the three words that could not be detected with psychic power. When Luli looked at the three words, he was touched. Blood Fairy stared at the three words for a while. She became confused. Seeing that Luli seemed to have understood something, Blood Fairy did not disturb him. Instead, she began to study the divine glyphs nearby. Luli stood there for a whole day. He opened his eyes, but he was still confused. He did not see through the meaning of the three characters. He did not sense any laws or Tao from them. He just felt there was something miraculous about it, as if it contained the truth of heaven and earth. Yet, he could not sense anything when he tried to pursue it. He didn't waste any more time and slowly walked inside. After avoiding a few clouds of mist, he entered the well-preserved part of the side hall. He also found something very interesting. Was this side hall a study? There was a square table made of white jade with writing brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone on the table. Perhaps, due to the passage of time, the paper had been weathered, The brushes were broken, and the ink was dried. But the inkstone was well preserved. Luli took a look at the table and then at the wall on the left. There was a piece of calligraphy left on the wall. Since the calligraphy was carved with a weapon, it was well preserved. The handwriting was graceful and lively. Clearly, it was the work of a lady. There was a poem written on it, but Luli's attention wasn't on how well it was written. Instead, he was paying attention to the signature, Ice Queen. Luli tried to recall the warriors at the absolute completion in history. He once read about some famous warriors in the Grim Reaper, for example, the warriors of the 8 galaxies and the Immortal Region, but Ice Queen's name was not mentioned. Theoretically speaking, this Ice Queen must be a very famous and powerful warrior at the absolute completion, since she had such a strong palace and such a strong cold air. Not even the master of the rhinoceros ape race dared to come in rashly. Maybe I'm just ignorant? I can look into it when I have the chance. Luli nodded. He looked at the graceful and lively words. He could sense a mysterious Taoist rhythm in the word. The Taoist rhythm was 100 times stronger than the one on the plaque outside. Chapter 3601. It was a graceful poem written by a lady. It was about loneliness and solitude. There was nothing special about the content. What was special was the strange Taoist rhyme contained in the words. Luli stared at the words one by one. He read them over and over again. His eyes were filled with confusion. He vaguely felt that he had disappeared from the palace and had gone to a vast universe. There was chaos there, and the world had yet to evolve or be born. He could feel the laws of heaven and earth in this chaos. They were clear and transparent. Swish, a bolt of lightning suddenly appeared in the chaos. It was as if the lightning had pierced through the night sky. It was dazzling. Then, the chaos was divided into two. Something wonderful was born in the chaos. Swish! Lightning flashed again and again. Life was born in this piece of chaos. Rain also appeared in the sky. The rain became heavier and heavier, and it poured down like a bucket. The primordial chaos below also began to evolve rapidly. Mountains, basins, rivers, and oceans appeared in the ocean. Luli could feel the birth of life. Slowly, the first creatures of the sea emerged. The world was changing. The ocean turned into land. The creatures of the sea began to move onto the land. Flowers and trees appeared on the land. Gradually, beasts and creatures were born. Those creatures continued to evolve and evolve. Some high-level creatures with intelligence appeared, giving birth to countless strange races and creatures. These living beings started to kill each other for territory. Some races also gathered together and built all sorts of tribes, towns, and civilizations were born. Later on, some races began to study heaven and earth. They absorbed spiritual energy in heaven and earth. They learned some cultivation methods from the laws of heaven and earth. Those races became more powerful. The battles between the races became more intense. Gradually, some races occupied a large piece of land. They built countries or sects and ruled over a large area. As time passed, the blue sea turned into mulberry fields. Many places kept on changing. One by one, kingdoms and factions fell. This world kept on evolving and gradually stabilizing. All kinds of civilizations were born, and the living beings there grew stronger and stronger. Boom! All of a sudden, a huge hand appeared in the sky. It smashed the entire world. Mountains and rivers were crushed. Creatures were annihilated. The world was collapsing. In the end, everything died. The world was torn apart. Slowly, it became chaos again. Buzzing, at this point, Luli opened his eyes. Two words popped up in his mind, samsara. He wasn't fully awake yet. His mind was still replaying the scenes he had seen before, and he was still immersed in the giant palm. The scene just now described one thing. It was the process of a world's origin, birth, prosperity, and finally destruction. The Taoist rhymes contained within these words were the four processes of birth, development, peak, and destruction. These four processes were extremely clear and felt very real. Luli felt that the world he saw just now was real. He felt that the powerful races there were extremely powerful in the later stages. Even the most powerful ones seemed to be at the absolute completion level, and there were countless of them, however. Before this gigantic palm, all creatures were powerless to resist. They were all incomparably weak, and were easily destroyed. The entire vast world was directly smashed into pieces. Just how terrifying was this power? Just how shocking was this technique? Destroying a great world. With Lu Li's current abilities, he could smash a small universe. But to smash a super-universe, not even a warrior at the consummate realm could do it, let alone a warrior at the consummate realm. Who was the owner of that huge palm? Is this the scene of a world above the fourth heaven collapsing? Lu Li suddenly thought of a possibility. Didn't all the worlds above the fourth heaven collapse? There were so many powerful warriors in this world, and there were hundreds of them at the absolute completion level. Not even the immortal region could have so many of them. It was highly possible that it was a world above the fourth heaven. Ice Empress was a powerful warrior from a world above the fourth heaven? She was lucky enough to escape, and then she integrated the scenes from her memory into the calligraphy? Is that why she was so lonely? Lu Li continued to speculate and found it more and more plausible. He was deeply shocked. If all this was true, then who was the owner of that huge palm? Was there a realm above the consummate realm? The consummate realm was the embodiment of cultivation to the extreme. What kind of realm was there above the consummate realm? The consummate realm could already control the force in heaven and earth and control a world. If there was a realm above that, then it would be an immortal that created the entire world. If it was a creator, then why would it destroy the world? It didn't make sense. How could the world be created by a creator? If it really was created by a creator, then where did the creator come from? Nothing in this world could appear out of thin air. Everything was connected by cause and effect. The birth, aging, sickness, and death of people were all in accordance with the laws of nature, which were in accordance with the laws of heaven and earth. When warriors cultivated, they borrowed the laws of heaven and earth to obtain more strength, stronger bodies, and longer lives than mortals. But even a consummate realm would die. This was the law of nature, the law of heaven and earth. Everything had to be under the control of the laws. There couldn't be a creature that could jump out of the 5 elements and not be bound by the laws of heaven and earth, right? Lu Li couldn't figure this out. Maybe only a warrior at the consummate realm would know this? If there was a chance, he could ask the gang leader or those major races that escaped from the fourth heaven and ask them what happened in the past. Right, Lu Li suddenly remembered something. He heard that the world above the fourth heaven collapsed because of a woman. Could it be this Ice Empress? The palace of the Ice Empress was so grand. Lu Li suspected that she might be a supreme warrior from a realm above the fourth heaven. The calligraphy only records some things and scenes? Lu Li was disappointed. He had thought that the calligraphy contained some miraculous Tao and that he could learn another Tao. However, it was just scenes. It didn't seem to be meaningful. "Master, you are finally awake," Blood Fairy said. Lu Li asked with a frown, "Why do you say I am awake?" Blood Fairy replied, "Because you've been standing here for 20 years. What?" Lu Li was shocked. He asked in disbelief, "Are you sure? 20 years? 20 years have passed in such a short time?" "It's absolutely true," Blood Fairy replied. "Master, feel for yourself. It has indeed been 20 years. Lu Li checked at once. He checked the realm of magic, only to be confused. The coldness in the realm of magic was multiplied, and so was the source of energy. It had been a long time. Lu Li had a bitter taste in his mouth. The images in the calligraphy had a magical power that could make him feel like time was flying by and make him forget everything. He wanted to read it a few more times, but he didn't have the courage to do so now. 20 years had passed in one go. Wouldn't 100 years be gone after a few times? How anxious were the people of the Lu clan outside. What if something happened to the god of death? By then, it would be too late for regrets. Chapter 3602. Something is not right. Luli scratched his head in confusion. Usually, when he cultivated for a few years, he would feel tired and drowsy. Even though his soul was strong, he still needed rest. Now, he had been standing for 20 years and he did not feel tired at all. In fact, he felt he was in a good state of mind. What? My soul has grown several times stronger? Luli checked his soul and was surprised. Only now did he realize that his soul had grown so much. No wonder he did not feel tired. He glanced at the words again and was secretly shocked. Ice Empress was powerful. She had been dead for so many years, but the calligraphy she left behind could be so miraculous. Luli did not have the courage to look at the calligraphy. He wandered around to see if there were other treasures. He did not find anything. He waved his hand to Blood Fairy and said, "Let's go to another side chamber. Have you learned anything in the past 20 years?" "Yes," Blood Fairy said with certainty. "I've memorized countless diagrams, and I've also made great progress in the field of divine inscriptions. When I fully comprehend the diagrams, my mastery of divine inscriptions will increase by at least 10 times. Dozens of times? That impressive?" Luli was surprised. Blood Fairy was already skilled in divine glyph. If her skills were dozens of times better, it would be horrifying. As far as Luli knew, no one could surpass Blood Fairy when it came to divine glyph. Blood Fairy said with delight, "That is right. I think the divine glyphs can trap a warrior at the perfect level." That impressive? Luli was speechless. Blood Fairy would not lie. In other words, this Empress of Ice's attainment in divine inscriptions must be impressive as well, to a terrifying extent. He continued to follow Blood Fairy. After passing through a corridor, he arrived at another side hall. This side palace was a bit interesting. There was a very big pool here, and there was a white liquid in the pool. There was also a picture on the wall and a transparent jade stone. Luli was delighted to see the jade. He could tell that it was a piece of treasure. Ice Empress was so powerful. The treasure she left behind would not be ordinary. Luli did not act rashly. He observed the surroundings first. He looked at the pond and the liquid in the pond. After a moment of observation, he was taken aback. The liquid in the pond was clearly divine liquid, a high-level one at that. But from the layout of the pool, it seemed to be a bath? In other words, the Ice Empress was bathing in an extremely high-grade divine liquid? Isn't this 2F** king extravagant? Luli observed for a while to make sure that it was a bath. He forced a smile and took out an interspatial artifact to put away the liquid in the bath. Other people's bathwater, on the other hand, was an incredible divine liquid. Luli did not want to give it up. If he had the chance, he would soak in it himself. His gaze fell on the painting, and his eyes became dazed again. The scene in front of him changed, and it turned into a vast starry sky. Moreover, this starry sky seemed to be divided into circles. There was an astral realm in the center, and this astral realm was clearly hundreds of times larger than the astral realm in the second circle. There were several astral realms in the second circle, dozens in the third circle, hundreds in the fourth circle, tens of thousands in the fifth circle. There were 7 astral realms in this circle. Beyond the 7th circle, the number of astral realms was endless. It was impossible to count them all. The astral realms were densely packed and boundless. There must be hundreds of billions of astral realms. Luli took a look and counted carefully. Suddenly, he was excited. He noticed something. The astral realms in the middle were dim, and only the astral realms at the periphery were glowing. If the periphery is the mortal world, then the seventh circle is the first heaven, the sixth is the second heaven, and the fifth is the third heaven? The fourth, the third, the second, and the astral realm in the center, do they represent the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh heaven? Worlds above the fourth heaven have collapsed, and the astral realms in the middle are dim. Is this a map of the entire world? It is possible. Otherwise, it would not be such a coincidence. Also, it is said that the fourth heaven has hundreds of astral realms. It is possible. This map has a record of the entire galaxy. The more Luli thought about it, the more likely it seemed. But even if it was true, the map would not be of much use. It would only give him a better understanding of the world. Worlds above the fourth heaven had collapsed. Learning about them would be pointless. At the end of the day, they would still have fun in the third heaven or the immortal region. Gradually, Luli's eyes cleared up. He looked at the transparent crystal ball. He asked Blood Fairy to check to make sure that there were no runes around the crystal ball. Then, Luli grabbed the crystal ball in his hand. The crystal ball was beautiful and integrated. There was a layer of white mist around it. It was transparent inside. Luli could see his hand through the crystal ball. He flipped it over and didn't find anything special about the crystal ball. It seemed to be just a gem, but it was not beautiful. What was the Ice Empress doing here? Luli poured in his source energy, but the crystal ball did not react. He used psychic power to check and asked Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, this is not a treasure. Didn't you say that this is strange? This must be a piece of treasure." Blood Fairy gave a positive answer. "Master, do you know how powerful and complicated the runes in the main hall are?" "Of course." Luli nodded. He had seen the runes in the main hall with his own eyes. They were powerful and complicated. Luli asked, "What does the crystal ball have to do with the main hall?" "Nothing." Blood Fairy's explanation almost made Luli speechless. After a pause, Blood Fairy continued, "I just want to tell you that there are divine glyphs in here, but you did not see them. The divine glyphs in here are 100 times more complicated and stronger than those in the main hall. Do you still think this crystal ball is an average item?" Bang! Luli's hand trembled. The crystal ball fell and rolled on the ground. Luli picked it up at once. He was shocked. He used psychic power to check the crystal ball. There was nothing in it. Blood Fairy said that the runes in the crystal ball were 100 times more complicated and powerful than those in the main hall. This was absurd. Luli closed his eyes at once and used the trace of Tao to check carefully. This time, he could sense that there were indeed countless divine inscriptions inside. However, these divine inscriptions were also transparent, so his spiritual force could not detect them. They were like the capillaries in the human body, invisible to the naked eye. "What?" Luli sensed for a moment and then put the crystal ball on the table. His eyes were filled with fear. The runes in the crystal ball were so powerful. If he accidentally triggered the runes, he would be killed in an instant. This is a treasure. Luli's heart was racing and his breaths shortened. If he could take control of the crystal ball and turn it into an offensive or defensive treasure, then his abilities would be enhanced by 10 times. Chapter 3603. This is good. Luli exclaimed. In his hand, the crystal ball felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds. He was afraid that he would break it if he was not careful. In the past, he did not think much of treasures. Ever since he acquired the traceless saber and the gong huangding, he had changed his mind about treasures that could enhance his abilities. This thing is too strange. It was such a small crystal ball, but there were at least 1,000,000 divine patterns in it. It was extremely complicated. Luli did not know much about divine patterns. That being said, he was certain that the crystal ball was a piece of treasure. He just did not know what it was. Are the divine patterns naturally there? Luli thought of a possibility. Maybe they were not divine patterns. They were natural textures. The textures had formed a miraculous formation, just like a natural formation. This was not impossible. The world was a big place, and nothing was too strange. Wait a minute, Luli thought of something. He once checked the divine patterns in the traceless saber and the gong huangding. They were complicated as well, but not as complicated as this. The traceless saber and the gong huangding were already top-level relic weapons. Could this crystal ball be more advanced than the traceless saber and the gong huangding? Based on this, could it be that Ice Empress was one level higher than a complete warrior? Blood Fairy. Luli sent a message to Blood Fairy for confirmation. He told her his speculation. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Blood Fairy replied, "Master, I do not know the specifics. But I am sure of one thing. The divine patterns in the crystal ball are 100 times more complicated than the traceless saber and the gong huangding. If this is an offensive or auxiliary artifact, then it must be 100 times more powerful. According to my analysis, if Ice Empress is not at an unimaginable level in terms of divine patterns, then your speculation makes sense. Ice Empress is one level higher than a complete warrior." What Lu Li's eyes were wide open, filled with astonishment. He remembered the scene he saw on the wall, the scene where the huge hand smashed a piece of space. Somehow, Lu Li suspected that Ice Empress was not a complete warrior. She might be more powerful than that. Sovereign? 2 words popped up in Lu Li's mind. He had heard the legend so many times. It was said that the almighty immortals were omnipotent. They could control the fate of all living beings. They could annihilate you with a single thought. They could control heaven and earth, summon the wind and rain, send down thunderbolts, and dominate all living beings in the universe. In other words, all living beings in the world, no matter how strong they were, no matter how good they were at the consummate level, they were still mortals in the end. A mortal who had stolen the power of heaven and earth and possessed some strange abilities. Sovereigns, on the other hand, were true gods. They were omnipotent and immortal. Deducing in this way, it seemed to make sense. When Lu Li was in the mortal world, he thought the powerful warriors in the divinity were immortals. Later, he learned that those were just powerful warriors that had learned some laws of heaven and earth. They were just one level higher than mortals. At that time, he had thought that the gods of the god world were omnipotent and immortal, but that was not the case. Putting aside the martial artists of the divine realm, not even consummation stage martial artists were true gods. That was because consummation stage martial artists would die. When their lifespan was up, even consummation stage martial artists had to die. This was an inescapable fate. This was the law of nature that could not be changed. They would be bound by the laws of heaven and earth, and eventually, they would turn into dust. Were the almighty immortals beyond the 5 elements and not bound by the laws of heaven and earth? What about immortality? That's not right, Lu Li shook his head. The Ice Empress Palace was ruined. Clearly, no one had lived here for years. Ice Empress must be dead. How could an almighty immortal die? Who could kill an almighty immortal? Were there many almighty immortals? If they were almighty immortals, then they must have dominated the outside world. How could they die? After thinking for an hour, Lu Li still could not come to a conclusion. He touched his forehead to get rid of those distracting thoughts. It was pointless to think about these things now. If he had the chance to communicate with someone like the king of the eastern region, he could ask him. There were many things that he was not qualified to know. I wonder how Little White is doing. What about the Grim Reaper and the Lu family? Lu Li was worried. He had been trapped here for decades. He could not let anything happen to the outside world. He threw away the crystal ball and asked, "Blood Fairy, have you found any teleportation altars or something?" There were many dangerous places here. Blood Fairy did not even have the courage to wander around. It had been a few decades. Blood Fairy should have explored many places by now. "There is one." Blood Fairy's words cheered Luli up. What she said next made him put on a bitter face. "But the patterns there are too complicated. Even I don't dare to go close. It is impossible for you to go there. Is there a chance to crack the formation?" Luli asked, unwilling to give up. Blood Fairy replied honestly, "It's not possible for now. It will take time. Master, don't worry. Even if I cannot crack the patterns here, let me study for a while. By then, I can crack the patterns for you in an instant. The master of the rhinoceros race will not have enough time to set up a trap. You can run away." "Okay." Luli nodded. He had been in there for so many years. The master of the rhinoceros race could not keep an eye on him all the time. He and Blood Fairy could go out all of a sudden. Then, Blood Fairy would crack the formation and Luli would leave. As long as the master of the rhinoceros race was not nearby, the master would not have enough time to set up a trap to kill Luli. As long as Luli could leave the Ice River Valley, he would be free to do whatever he wanted. "Okay." Luli nodded. "Go and study the patterns. Hurry up. If you are not sure that you can crack the patterns on the teleportation altar, then write them down and study them later. Let's go. I am worried that something might happen to my family." "Okay." Blood Fairy snuck away to check the patterns nearby. Luli sat in the side hall and began to play with the crystal ball. This must be a piece of treasure. It all depended on how he would take control of it. Luli took the crystal ball and closed his eyes. He used the trace of Tao to check carefully. After several days, he had no clue. He had to use his source energy to envelop the crystal ball and see if he could take control of it. Luli had been working on the crystal ball for 3 months, but nothing happened. During this time, Luli had tried many methods, but nothing worked. There is no trace of Tao in it. The traceless sword could be taken control of because of the Tao in it. Luli wanted to find the Tao in the crystal ball as well. It was a pity that he could not find any trace of Tao. He put down the crystal ball. He would not be able to take control of it any time soon. Should I warm it over a fire? Since he had nothing else to do, Luli used some flames. As soon as the flames came out, the ice around him melted. But soon, the flames died out. The cold air here was too heavy for flames to last long, right? Flames would not work. Luli thought of another way. This was a treasure from the Ice Queen. If he poured some cold air into the crystal ball, would there be an unexpected effect? He took action at once. He gathered some cold air from the magic realm and poured it into the crystal ball. Buzzing as the cold air went in, the crystal ball suddenly glowed. Luli trembled in fear. P.S. Chapter 4 added. Chapter 3604. The crystal ball glowed, and a beam of light was cast to the map on the wall. Luli was taken aback. Was the crystal ball a part of the painting? Luli frowned. He looked at the map and then at the crystal ball. Not much had changed. The crystal ball only lit up with a beam of light, and the map also lit up slightly. Other than that, there wasn't much change. What is the meaning of this? Luli was speechless. He had thought that the crystal ball would release some horrifying skills. Just a shield to strengthen his defense would be good enough, if not a powerful attack. But such a powerful artifact was just for a map. More importantly, the map didn't change at all. Luli thought about it for a while. He put his mind into the crystal ball and tried to sense any changes in it. Nothing changed after a while. Then, he focused on the map. The map didn't change. It just glowed and the astral realms were brighter. Astral realms. Luli focused on an astral realm. All of a sudden, he saw a white glare. Then, he saw something mysterious. He could actually see that interface. He could see countless mountains, rivers, and lakes. His mind drifted downwards, and he could even see the city below. In fact, he could see every martial artist in the city clearly, and he could even see the fine hairs on their bodies. Is this real or an illusion? Luli was startled. He stopped using psychic power at once. The scene disappeared and he was back in the side hall. He paced back and forth in the main hall. Finally, his divine perception scanned in again and locked onto another astral domain. Just like before, he could see everything that was going on in the astral domain. He could see how many cities there were in this astral domain and how many formidable martial artists there were. In fact, he could even easily observe what was going on in many rooms. This is amazing. Luli used psychic power to find a warrior at the later stage of the Saint King who was cultivating in a castle. Luli tried to check, but the warrior knew nothing. Luli even used psychic power to check the warrior's body, but the warrior knew nothing. I need to find a warrior that is infinitely close to the consummate realm or a warrior at the consummate realm. Luli used psychic power to search. Soon, he found a powerful warrior who was infinitely close to the consummate realm in a city. Luli used psychic power to check the warrior, but the warrior sensed nothing. Luli's heart was filled with excitement as he continued to scan the area for masters at the consummate level. Got it! Finally, he found a great perfection stage cultivator in the mountains behind this astral boundary main city. However, when his spiritual force swept past this great perfection stage cultivator, this great perfection stage cultivator who was cultivating suddenly opened his eyes and looked around coldly. We've been discovered. Luli was taken aback at first, but then he continued to look around without the slightest scruple. So what if he was discovered? He wasn't in this astral realm. Could this consummate warrior track him down here and kill him? His divine will swept here and there, and that consummate cultivator suddenly stood up and shouted angrily, "Who are you, fellow Taoist? Come out and meet me!" Even Luli could hear it clearly, but he didn't reply. He continued to watch the consummate's performance. The great perfection paragon used the power of heaven and earth to search around, but he didn't find anything. He didn't actually find anything, but he felt as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him. This feeling made him feel extremely uncomfortable and shocked. There's nothing? Am I having an allergic reaction? This is strange, so strange. After a while, the great perfection stage cultivator continued to cultivate. After a while, he opened his eyes again, and they were filled with fear. He murmured, "This can't be. Even if the most powerful consummate warrior were to secretly come and check on me, I would still be able to sense it." Whoosh! The great perfection stage cultivator flew out of the castle and led his body into the air. Then, he began to search nearby. Even though the great perfection stage cultivator had disappeared into the air, Luli could still sense him through the changes in the power of heaven and earth. Luli's psychic power was still locked on to him. The great perfection stage cultivator searched the nearby area again and again. The shock and bewilderment in his eyes grew stronger. Luli, on the other hand, was getting more and more excited. This game was so fun that he could tease a great perfection stage cultivator, even though he wasn't sure if this was real or just an illusion. After a while, Luli retracted his psychic power. His psychic power left this astral realm and scanned the nearby astral realms. He could see every astral realm clearly. He could see every living being there. This is amazing. If what I saw is real, then I have become an almighty immortal and have the perspective of an almighty immortal. Can I see everything in the universe? Luli was shocked. Was this Empress of Ice really an almighty immortal? This artifact was so miraculous and unreal that he could not understand it. If it were not for the fact that he was the one who experienced all this, he would have thought it was nonsense. Is what I saw real or an illusion? Luli was confused. He began to think. After a moment, he had an idea. It was easy to verify if what he saw was an illusion. He just had to look for the astral realms he was familiar with, such as the Dipper Galaxy, the Chaotic Galaxy, or the Universe of Heaven. Then, he would be able to verify it. The 8 major galaxies and the immortal region were all in the third heaven. Luli locked onto the realms around the third heaven and started searching. Soon, he found a galaxy similar to the 8 galaxies. There were 8 very large ones, each with tens of thousands of astral realms. Luli first used psychic power to check one of the galaxies. He was unfamiliar with none of them. He retracted his psychic power and turned to the second one, which was strange. He went to the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one. Luli's heart skipped a beat. He found a familiar one that he had been to before. It was a big one in the Dipper Galaxy, where he once made a killing. Luli was trembling with excitement. He used psychic power to check around. Soon, he found several familiar ones. His spiritual force immediately returned and scanned the interface at the side. After scanning it, he felt like crying all of a sudden, because he found the Chaotic Galaxy. He used psychic power to check where the God of Death was. He found the Heavens Crossing region and the Heavens Crossing city. He saw the 9 warriors of the God of Death, Emperor Mo, Emperor of Wings, and Emperor of Feather. He used psychic power to check the Lu mansion. He saw Lu Renhuang, his wives and concubines, and the worry and anxiety on their faces. The map is real. It is real. This treasure is unbelievable. I cannot put it into words. Luli was so excited that he couldn't even speak coherently. He couldn't put into words how miraculous the treasure was. It was beyond logic and beyond human capability. He couldn't explain the mechanism of the treasure, so he had to think of it as a miracle. A piece of treasure that could see the entire world and monitor it. How miraculous and horrifying was this? The entire world would be in an uproar if people knew about this. Chapter 3605. It was just a map, yet it was able to monitor the entire great world. Everything that happened in every realm could be clearly seen. Even the hair on every martial artist's body could not be clearly seen. There was no way to explain the magic of the map. Luli had to use the means of an almighty god. Ice Empress was definitely not at the complete realm, but above that. She might be the legendary almighty god. Luli saw the image of the hand that destroyed a super-universe. Luli was even more certain of the existence of an almighty god. Only an almighty god could explain what he saw and the unexplainable. However, Ice Empress was dead. If she was an almighty god, then who killed her and the collapse of worlds above the fourth realm? Luli felt this world was full of mysteries and there was a big secret hidden. It was a pity that his level was not high enough to know the big secret. Let me check outside. Luli thought for a while and used psychic power to check the nearby universes. Soon, he found the Empyrean Galaxy and the ancient Rhino Realm. His psychic power stopped at the Ice River Valley. He could tell there were 2 powerful warriors guarding outside the Ice River Valley and 3 patriarchs of the Rhino Ape race outside a castle nearby. He could tell there was poison in the Ice River Valley, and there were 2 more runes. Everything was similar to what he had seen before. The map is real. Luli was getting more excited. The map was a treasure. A scholar could know everything in the world without going out. He could know everything about the universe at home. He could know everything he wanted to know at once. When he was in the Chaotic Star region, he knew about the Immortal region. Oh, the Immortal region! Luli began to search for the immortal region. It was in the middle of the 8 galaxies. It should be easy to find. He used psychic power and found the immortal region after a while. He put his psychic power in and the scene of the immortal region appeared in his mind. East region, go and check on Little White. Luli scanned the East region with psychic power and found the mystic armor city. He couldn't find Little White. As his spiritual force swept across the East King City, the king of the Eastern region, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with coldness. He was like the king of ferocious beasts that had been awakened from a deep sleep. Even Luli shivered when he used psychic power to check. Luli withdrew his psychic power at once. Little White must have gone to a secret realm to cultivate. Since the king of the Eastern region was safe and sound, then Little White must be fine. Luli didn't have to worry about it. By the way, I wonder if I can transmit my voice through this treasure? Luli was intrigued. If he could send a message, then he could tell Lu Renhuang and the others not to worry. He used psychic power to scan the chaotic star region and eventually, he locked onto the Sky Crossing City. He wanted to go to Lu Renhuang directly, but on second thought, he did not want to scare him. Sister. He found Lu Ling who was cultivating in her room. He used psychic power to check on her and tried to send a message, Sister. Lu Ling suddenly opened her eyes. She was overjoyed. Then she used psychic power to check outside. She stood up and said with joy, Luli is back? Sister, don't move. Luli was overjoyed as well. He replied, Sister, I am not back. I am still in the star region of Heaven Universe. Lu Ling was taken aback. Then she said in shock, Luli, are you kidding me? Come out now. Don't tease me. Really, Luli replied with a forced smile. I am still in the star region of Heaven Universe. I am cultivating in a blessed place. There is a miraculous formation here that allows me to send messages back. It's hard to explain this in such a short time, so please don't spread it. Just tell everyone that I'm safe and sound through a special communication channel, and I'll be back soon. Tell everyone not to worry. Okay. Lu Ling had absolute trust in Luli. She nodded. Still, she said in surprise, you can send a message from the region of universe and directly to me. How miraculous this communication formation is. It's indeed marvelous. Luli exclaimed, I am studying it. It will be of great use to me later. That is why I have been staying here. I think I will leave in a dozen years at most. Don't worry. Don't tell others. Just tell your family. Don't tell the warriors of death. Oh, is everything okay with death? Yes. Lu Ling nodded and told him about the situation. The development of death was going well. It was stable now. As long as nothing happened to Luli, the position of the master would not be a problem. Luli exchanged a few more words with Lu Ling and then retracted his psychic power. Lu Ling was relieved. If Luli could send messages back from the star region of Heaven Universe, what else could go wrong? She went out to find Lu Renhuang, Xiang Linglong and Yin Qingxi with a smile. She was relieved. As long as nothing happened to Luli, nothing else mattered. Lu Renhuang, Jiang Qiling and Yin Qingxi were relieved as well. Everything was fine as long as Luli was safe. As for whether Luli would come back or not, that was not important. They were used to Luli's days away. They knew very well that unless he had no other choice, Luli would not leave them. Luli enjoyed spending time with them. He didn't like to wander around and be alone. The Lu alliance was developing rapidly. Many of their families had grown as well, especially the 4 families, Yin family, Xiang family, Qi family and Hua family. They had a solid foundation. They used to be big families in the Middle King realms. Although many experts had been killed, the elites of the younger generation had all survived. This group of warriors had made the fastest progress. Nurtured by a large amount of resources, they had progressed rapidly. They had become the backbone of the Middle King realms. The Lu Alliance had been transferring elites from the Middle King realms to train. That being said, it would take time for those elites to grow. Those families were the first to come to the chaotic star region with Luli. Naturally, they had benefited a lot. Many of their warriors had not only become the middle management of the Lu Alliance but also the middle management of death. At this rate, they would be able to take root in death. As long as the death was alive and Luli was alive, some of their disciples could become leaders of death and have a say. Of course, they were well aware that the reason why they were valued, the reason why they were in high positions and the reason why they could become leaders in the future was all because of Luli. Luli was the soul of death now. Luli's faction was the most powerful. The other factions wouldn't dare to belittle the voice of their faction. Even though Luli was not here, his faction did not stop recruiting powerful warriors. On the contrary, because of Lu Li's absence, Lu Ling, the leader of the faction, recruited many warriors. Most of them were Saint Kings, young ones with great potential and space for development. The older generation would eventually pass away. Or, when they were too old, they would no longer be in charge and would stay in retirement. The younger Saint Emperors would take over sooner or later. Those Saint Emperors with potential could become leaders of death in the future. Controlling this group of Saint Emperors would mean controlling death. Chapter 3606. The patterns in the Ice Queen's palace were powerful. Luli had been waiting for 10 years and Blood Fairy still could not decipher the patterns on the altar. The patterns were too complicated. It was not that Blood Fairy was not good enough. It was just that she needed time. With Blood Fairy's confirmation, Luli told her not to try and decipher the patterns. He told her to study the patterns to improve her abilities. Since there was no way out, she had to go back to the Ice River Valley. As long as Blood Fairy could improve, she could crack the formation of the Ice River Valley in an instant. The master of the rhinoceros race would not have enough time to react. Luli did not believe that the master of the rhinoceros race would be waiting outside the Ice River Valley. Luli used the crystal ball and the map to check outside the Ice River Valley. He found nothing except that there were 2 senior warriors guarding in the Ice River Valley. There were 3 more guarding in the nearby castles. Hundreds of scouts were hiding nearby and thousands of warriors were stationed outside. Luli had checked before. When he locked onto a perfect warrior, he could tell the location of the warrior based on the flow of energy in heaven and earth. Theoretically speaking, there was a chance that he could tell if there was a perfect warrior nearby. But he had been here for a long time. Even if the master of the rhinoceros race was hiding nearby, he could not stay invisible all the time. How tiring would that be? To stay invisible, one had to become one with heaven and earth. That was a skill that could not be used all the time. Right, at this moment, Luli thought of something. Could he check the city of rhinoceros race? To see if the master of the rhinoceros race was cultivating in the city? Theoretically speaking, if the master of the rhinoceros race was not here, then he must be in the ancient city of rhinoceros race or the city of rhinoceros race. Luli poured in some cold energy at once. The crystal ball glowed, and a ray of light was projected to the map. Luli checked the map and soon found the rhinoceros race. He had locked onto the city of rhinoceros race. He could sense everything in the city and all the rhinoceros race in the city. This manor must be where the master of the rhinoceros race lived. Luli checked for a while and noticed the most heavily guarded manor. He saw the chief patriarch and second patriarch of the rhinoceros ape race in a hall. They were discussing something. It seemed to be about the Meng race. The second elder said, "I think we can take advantage of the situation. There are more than 10 large clans attacking the Meng tribe. If we don't take action, it will give the outside world the wrong impression. After all, our race was almost exterminated back then. Now that the Meng race is under attack, there is no reason for us not to add fuel to the fire, right? The Grand Elder pondered for a moment and said, "Since there are more than a dozen big clans attacking, we won't be a problem. Given the current situation of our race, I think it's best that we don't make any rash move. In the previous battle, our race lost so many experts. If we go to war this time, we'll definitely lose many as well. I think it's best that you don't care too much about these things. Go into seclusion and break through to the consummate level. Time is of the essence. I have so many things to deal with that I cannot calm down. As long as Luli is alive, I cannot cultivate in peace. Luli has been missing for decades. Maybe he has died in the Ice Valley." Second Patriarch said, "I don't think it is necessary to pay attention to Luli anymore. There are so many divine inscriptions in the Ice River Valley and so many poisonous insects. We have our forefather guarding there. If Luli could come out, he would have done so by now. It has been decades. Family Patriarch, I think you are being too cautious." "I have to be cautious," the Chief Patriarch exclaimed. "You know how horrifying Luli is." Luli was confused. Why did Second Patriarch call the Chief Patriarch the Family Patriarch? Had the Chief Patriarch of the Rhinoceros race passed the position to the Chief Patriarch? Luli was confused. He had to listen on. The Chief Patriarch was adamant about not attacking the Meng race. He just wanted to rest and build up more powerful warriors. He advised Second Patriarch to cultivate and strive to reach the consummate level. All right. Seeing that he could not persuade the Chief Patriarch, Second Patriarch forced a smile and said, "Then I will go to the Cyan Cloud region. I will cultivate there for 100 years and try to reach the consummate level. If you need anything, just let me know. Family Patriarch, please take care of the affairs of our race." "Okay." The Chief Patriarch nodded and said with pride, "Our priority now is to reach the consummate level. I will cultivate as well when we are almost done. One of us must reach the consummate level, and we cannot drag this on for too long." "Got it." The second elder nodded with a solemn expression, and then walked outside. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly turned around and asked, "Should we find a day to bury the remains of the old tribe king in the ancestral mausoleum? In any case, it won't be leaked, and we can bury it secretly. It's not the same thing to keep it underground." On hearing this, Luli's pupils contracted and his soul trembled. Old Family Patriarch? Was he talking about the chief of the rhinoceros race? Body? Was the chief of the rhinoceros race dead? If so, what was there for Luli to be afraid of? He could just kill his way out. There was only one consummate level warrior of the rhinoceros race. It would not be easy for the Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch to reach that level. Luli tried to eavesdrop again. The Chief Patriarch waved his hand and said, "Never mind. No matter how secretive it is, there will be a leak. Only the Family Patriarch can be buried in the ancestral mausoleum. Now that there is another one, it will arouse suspicion. When the news of the Family Patriarch's death spreads out, it will be a serious matter." Ha 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 ha. On hearing this, Luli suddenly burst into laughter. His voice was heard directly in the hall, which startled Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch. Chief Patriarch jumped up from his seat. The two powerful warriors took out their weapons and treasures at once. They used psychic power to check for any lurking warriors. However, they found nothing. Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch looked at each other as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Chief Patriarch shouted, "Who is it that has sneaked into the rhinoceros race? Please come out and see me." Luli curled his lips. He didn't expect that he would laugh out loud because he was too happy. His voice was transmitted over and resounded in the main hall. He was getting carried away, but he didn't mind. What he said just now made him sure of one thing: the chief of the rhinoceros race was dead. What he was worried about the most was the chief of the rhinoceros race. This one at the consummate level almost killed him. Now that the king of the rhinoceros ape tribe was dead, the rhinoceros ape tribe was completely defenseless to him. He could kill them if he wanted to, slaughter them if he wanted to. He could ravage them wantonly. No matter what, he could destroy the rhinoceros ape tribe. If he could not destroy the rhinoceros race, the endless ruins of divinity would never be safe and the matter would never end. That was why Luli was so overjoyed when he heard the news. The Ice River Valley could no longer trap him. He felt like he was a dragon that was about to fly away. Ignoring the first elder and second elder, he transmitted his voice to Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy, I'll give you 3 months. Do your best to inscribe the divine inscriptions you want. After 3 months we'll force our way out. This time, I will force the rhinoceros race out of the region of universe and go back to their ancestral land to linger on with their feeble existence. Ha ha. Chapter 3607. The sudden laughter scared Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch out of their wit. They were even more panicked when they found nothing after searching the entire Rhino Apes city. There were only 2 kinds of people that could sneak into the Rhino Ape city without anyone noticing and not being able to find them. One was a consummate warrior and the other was Luli. Either way, it meant that the Rhino Apes race was in big trouble. Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch were talking about the remains of the master of the Rhino Apes when they heard the laughter. It meant that this person must be an enemy, either the master of the Glaze race or Luli. Either way, they were not allies. Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch spent the whole night discussing. Then, they decided to relocate the elites and resources of the race. It was always better to be on the safe side no matter what the outcome might be. As the orders were passed down, the Rhino Ape race's countless clansmen were dumbfounded. Didn't they just achieve a great victory decades ago? Now, the Rhino Apes had no external enemies. Many warriors of the Rhino Apes were trying to break into the Meng race. Why were they relocating to their ancestral land? Chief Patriarch didn't give any explanation. In recent years, Chief Patriarch had been in charge of the affairs of the Rhino Ape. His orders were as authoritative as those of the Master. The Rhino Apes followed Chief Patriarch's orders to the letter. That being said, there were too many young warriors of the Rhino Apes, and there were too many resources in different places. It would take several years to relocate all of them. Report: 3 months later, an urgent message arrived, causing the Great Elder's expression to become extremely nervous. In the Ice Valley, Luli was up to something. That goblin was cracking formations by force and she was fast. In the time for 1 incense stick to burn, she had cracked 1 rune formation. In half a day at most, all the rune formations would be cracked. The Glaze race was requesting for help. Not Luli. Chief Patriarch frowned. Luli was still in the Ice Valley. Could it be the master of the Glaze race? The Glaze race was fighting for the Rhino Apes race? Now that Luli was about to come out again, it was like when it rains, it pours. Chief Patriarch dispatched forces at once. He asked all the powerful warriors close to the consummate realm from nearby universes to the Ice River Valley. Second Patriarch was there as well. They must kill Luli in the Ice River Valley. The second elder had brought 5 elders with him. There were originally 5 supreme powerhouses on the other side, and there were as many as 30 powerhouses who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection Realm that had been mobilized from nearby. Second Patriarch thought it would be difficult for Luli to escape even if he could crack the formation with so many powerful warriors there. As long as he had the chance, he could kill Luli. They directly teleported over, and after arriving at ancient Rhino City, they flew towards the frozen river valley at their fastest speed. By the time they flew over, the nearby elders had already arrived. More than 20 elders stood nervously outside the Ice River Valley, scanning the situation inside. Luckily, the formation hasn't been completely broken, Second Patriarch breathed in relief. He checked but could only find Blood Fairy. Luli was nowhere to be found. Blood Fairy lurked underground, darting in and out of the spell formation, trying to break it. The second elder could sense that the divine inscriptions on the grand formation were weakening. It wouldn't take long before the formation was broken. "Can I kill this succubus?" Second Patriarch asked several patriarchs. One of the patriarchs replied, "I think we can use soul attacks. But we have a discussion. How about we wait and see if Luli will come out after the formation is broken? We have so many powerful warriors in ambush. If we can take this chance to kill Luli, we can solve the problem once and for all. Of course, we will have to rely on Second Patriarch's decision." Sure, Second Patriarch thought about it. Luli was nowhere to be found. Was it possible that he was hiding in the Shumi space? If he was going to come out, he must leave some traces. Then, there might be a chance to kill Luli. Luli was like a ticking time bomb in the Ice River Valley. He could come out at any time to ruin things. If they could kill Luli, then it would be the end of the matter. However, Second Patriarch remembered what the Rhino Ape's master said and how much he valued Luli. Second Patriarch's heart was pounding. Could they kill Luli? If they could not and Luli came out, then the Rhino Ape's race would be doomed. The second elder's heart was in turmoil, and just as he was hesitating, an elder suddenly sent him a voice transmission. "Second elder, there's movement below." Second Patriarch checked at once. There was a slight fluctuation in the depth of the Ice River Valley. It was like a breeze blowing over the surface of a lake, causing some ripples. When he checked again, the fluctuation in space had gone back to normal. They didn't find Luli either. Good. Second Patriarch was excited. Did Luli come out from the Shumi space? Or did he just come out and go back? Whatever it was, if Luli left some traces when he came out, then he might leave some traces later. With so many powerful warriors attacking at the same time, Luli would be forced out. By then, even if Luli could kill some of them, he could be killed by them all. "Hide and wait for the formation to be broken," Second Patriarch said. Then, he used stealth skill and hid above the Ice River Valley. At the same time, he said, "Try not to use psychic power. Try to sense with force in heaven and earth. The moment the formation is broken, we will attack together and force Luli out." Okay. The patriarchs were excited. Luli killed so many patriarchs and almost led to the extinction of the rhinoceros ape race. They hated Luli so much. How could they miss a chance to kill Luli? All the patriarchs went into hiding at once. Those who didn't have powerful stealth skills would step back and conceal their chi and energy. Time moved on. The patriarchs were getting more and more nervous. They didn't release any divine glyph. Instead, they relied on force in heaven and earth to sense the situation in the Ice River Valley. An hour had passed. The last divine glyph's formation was about to be broken. The patriarchs were getting more and more nervous. Something is happening again. Second Patriarch and the other patriarchs nearby all felt something in the Ice River Valley. A man was faintly discernible in the cave and sneaking out. Second Patriarch and the patriarchs were overjoyed when they sensed this. Finally, Luli could not wait any longer. The moment the formation was broken, it would be Luli's time to die. Luli took a few steps in the cave of the Ice River Valley and then disappeared, as if he had gone back into the Shumi space. Second Patriarch and the other patriarchs were not concerned. The divine glyphs were about to be broken. How could Luli sit still? Of course, he would come out at once. Buzzing, the last of the divine glyphs was broken, and Blood Fairy suddenly disappeared. Then, a sword slash came out of the cave and went all the way to the Ice River Valley. It broke a section of the wall at the entrance of the Ice River Valley, and the poisonous liquid was drawn to the outside. "Attack!" Second Patriarch yelled. He didn't even care if the resources in the Ice River Valley would be destroyed. Leading a group of powerful warriors, Second Patriarch bombarded the Ice River Valley and unleashed many horrifying moves. The entire Ice River Valley suddenly turned into a mess. Space was torn apart and layers of ice were blasted apart. Venom flew in all directions. If there were any martial artists here, then not even their dregs would be left. Chapter 3608. The bombardment went on for an hour. The Ice River Valley had changed. Many layers of ice were blasted away and some rocks were crushed. But Second Patriarch and the others did not see Luli, not even a shadow. Was Luli smashed into pieces? Or Luli never came out? Or had he run away? Second Patriarch and the others could not figure it out. They had to stop and check. They used psychic power to check and sense through force in heaven and earth. They sensed for more than 2 hours but still did not find anything. Second Patriarch was panicking. If they could not kill Luli and he could escape, it would be a disaster for the rhinoceros ape race. Lay down the divine patterns and seal this place up. Second Patriarch ordered after some thoughts. Whether Luli was hiding or had escaped, they had to seal this place up first. They would seal this place first. If Luli could not get out, then they would keep him trapped here. As soon as Second Patriarch gave the order, several patriarchs went to work. It's done. Luli was in the realm of magic. He saw everything through the crystal ball and the map. If he did not leave now, he would not be able to later. Now that the patriarchs were working, they could not attack anymore. This was the best time to run away. Luli released the traceless path and came out. When he came out, he didn't cause any spatial fluctuations at all. The spatial fluctuations that appeared before, and the light shadow that was detected, were all intentional. He did that to distract Second Patriarch and the others so that they would not attack Blood Fairy. He flew to the top of the Ice River Valley and swaggered away from a group of elders. 300 miles away from the Ice River Valley, Luli stood in midair and looked at Second Patriarch and the others. He grinned coldly. Then, he directly revealed himself and shouted, "Everyone, don't bother. I'm already out. I am grateful for the kindness the rhinoceros ape race has shown me. I will repay the rhinoceros ape race." Luli shouted using Dragon Roar. His voice echoed to a radius of 3,000 miles, making Second Patriarch and the others tremble. Second Patriarch looked over and saw Luli. Before Second Patriarch could do anything, Luli had vanished again. Whoosh! The patriarchs dashed over as fast as they could and launched all kinds of attacks at the spot where Luli was standing. The space there was torn apart again and again. However, there was no one in the air. Luli had disappeared again. It's over, the tiger has returned to the mountain. The second elder's lips tasted bitter, his eyes lost focus, and even his hands were trembling slightly. Luli, the god of massacre, had come out. Next, the rhinoceros ape race would suffer his bloody revenge and massacre. Besides, with the death of the rhinoceros ape race's consummate warrior, there was no other powerful warrior that could suppress Luli. Luli alone could wipe out the rhinoceros apes, not to mention other races. Everyone, go back! After a short period of absent-mindedness, the second elder ordered all the elders to return. They were not to return to the Rhino Ancient City, but to return to the Rhino Ape City. He wanted to report to the Great Elder and see how this matter was handled. If it wasn't handled well, then the rhinoceros ape race would face a disaster. A group of powerful warriors teleported back immediately. Luli left the ancient Rhino realm as well. He planned to contact the god of death and send a message that he had come out so that Lord Li and the headquarters of the god of death would not be in a hurry. He would take his time to deal with the rhinoceros ape race later. The consummate warrior of the rhinoceros ape race was dead. For Luli, he could mess with the rhinoceros ape race however he wanted. As long as they did not ask for the help of a consummate warrior, He could destroy the rhinoceros ape race easily. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. He wanted to take a look first. After being trapped for decades, he was eager to get in touch with the outside world. After Second Elder and the others came back, the most important patriarchs and the chief patriarch called for an emergency meeting. They all knew about the death of the master of the rhinoceros ape race. That Laughter and the other patriarchs were of the opinion that this was the most serious situation the rhinoceros ape race had ever faced. They had a day's meeting and reached two conclusions. The first was to speed up the evacuation and move many elites and resources to the ancestral land. The second was to negotiate with Luli and bow to him. This was what the master of the rhinoceros ape race said before his death. As long as Luli was dealt with, the rhinoceros ape race should be able to hang on for some time. After the Laughter, nothing happened. The Gladius race and the other major races nearby did not do anything either. Therefore, the chief patriarch and the other patriarchs hoped that they could get lucky. The top priority was to deal with Luli. Second Elder was in charge. It was okay if they could not find Luli. They could go to the god of death directly. The rhinoceros ape race did not believe that Luli had really escaped from the god of death. They did find out that Luli's family was still living in the Tianhua city. It was a joke that Luli had escaped from the god of death. Second Elder sent a patriarch to the god of death's branch and left a letter for the god of death to deliver to Luli that the rhinoceros ape race was willing to talk. As long as Luli wanted to talk, then everything was negotiable. The rhinoceros ape race was efficient. As soon as Luli contacted the god of death, the latter sent a message saying that the rhinoceros ape race wanted to talk. Luli was delighted to hear the news. The rhinoceros ape race was cowering fast. Luli was not in a hurry to talk. Instead, he asked the god of death to contact Lord Li and ask the three of them to go back to the Endless Ruins. Now that the rhinoceros ape race was under control, the Endless Ruins were safe. Luli also asked the god of death to tell Lord Li that if they were interested, they could conquer the territories of the Bloodrock race, the Boring Blade race and the Rune race. None of the three races had powerful warriors that were close to the consummate realm. The rhinoceros ape race wouldn't say anything even if they could conquer the territories. What was more, the negotiations had not started yet. Lord Li was overjoyed and thanked Luli profusely. They even said that they would come and thank Luli. But Luli told them to go back on their own. The rhinoceros ape race was still under control. Luli had to be careful. What if Lord Li was being followed? As soon as Lord Li went back, Luli took action. That was right. The rhinoceros ape race said they wanted to talk. But Luli had been trapped for decades. He didn't want to talk directly. He wanted to vent his anger, kill some powerful warriors of the rhinoceros ape race, and wipe out hundreds of thousands of warriors. Also, he wanted to cripple the rhinoceros ape race. Naturally, he could not agree to the peace talks so easily. Through the communication with the god of death, Luli learned that the master of the rhinoceros ape race had passed away. But the rhinoceros ape race kept the news a secret. Luli used the master of the rhinoceros ape race as a deterrent. If the master of the rhinoceros ape race didn't come out after Luli slaughtered at will, the major races of the Tianyu Star region would grow suspicious. By then, the rhinoceros ape race would be in endless trouble. Luli didn't care too much about wiping out the rhinoceros ape race, but he couldn't let the rhinoceros ape race live an easy life. In this way, the rhinoceros ape race wouldn't be able to cause trouble to the Endless Ruins or the Lu family. This was what Luli wanted. Of course, Luli wanted to talk. Over the years, the rhinoceros ape race had accumulated many resources and treasures. Some would be enough for Lu Meng to use for many years. In addition, there were many warriors on his side. Lu Meng could win people over by sharing some with them. Luli wanted to hurt the rhinoceros ape race before the talk. He wanted to break them down. By then, the rhinoceros ape race would have to give him whatever he wanted. Chapter 3609. In the half a year, Luli began to attack like crazy. He did not take a break. He would attack 2 or 3 places in a universe. Basically, he would destroy a city and crack open some places with resources. He didn't kill civilians, but as long as they were in military uniform, he would kill them all. In half a year, he had destroyed more than 10 cities and opened up more than 10 places with precious resources. Since the rhinoceros apes were conservative, many powerful warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate realm had left, leaving Luli to attack. Therefore, over the past 6 months, Luli had only killed 11 warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate realm, hundreds of Saint Kings, and over 5 million warriors. The Rhino Ape tribe could afford these losses. What the Rhinoceros Ape tribe couldn't afford was their reputation. Even though the eyes of the entire Tianyu Star region had recently turned to the Meng tribe, the Rhinoceros Ape tribe didn't dare to offend them. However, with such a huge incident happening here, how could it not attract the attention of other forces? There were traitors in every major force, as well as scouts from various races. It was impossible to hide the news. Especially, every time Luli attacked, he would leave his name behind. It was hard not to attract attention. A few decades ago, the rhinoceros ape race king had killed a great perfection stage cultivator and heavily injured a great perfection stage cultivator. His name had shaken the entire Sky Universe star region. Decades had passed. Many major races thought that Luli had been killed by the master of the rhinoceros ape race, or that he had gone back to the chaotic star region. Little did they expect that Luli would show up again and begin his killing spree. If the rhinoceros ape king was still alive, the rhinoceros ape tribe would not panic at all. The problem was that the master of the rhinoceros ape race was dead. If Luli kept on attacking and the master of the rhinoceros ape race didn't come out, the rhinoceros ape race would be discovered sooner or later. When that happened, the leader of the Glaze tribe would probably be the first to jump out, and the Rhino Ape tribe would be annihilated. The great elder of the rhinoceros ape race was very anxious. The second elder simply went to the Death God's branch and waited there every day. At first, the Reaper division said that Luli was no longer their leader and that they had no way of contacting him. They waited for more than a month. After Second Patriarch went in person, the leader of the Grim Reaper's branch came out. He said that he could find a way to contact Luli and help the Rhino Ape race to make peace and bury the hatchet. The branch leader had come out, and the second elder saw hope. He also understood that Luli would talk, but not so easily. Luli would kill them first to vent his anger. At the same time, Luli could put pressure on them. Therefore, Second Patriarch sent a message back and asked all the powerful warriors of the tribe to go back. If Luli wanted to kill or destroy the city, then so be it. As long as he didn't kill the elders, the second elder wouldn't feel the slightest bit of heartache for the ordinary clansmen and some soldiers. He stayed in the Death God branch and waited for news every day. His attitude was extremely humble, and he almost knelt down to the branch leader of the Death God branch. The branch leader of the Reaper division was a great patriarch and a member of Lu Li's faction. He carried out Lu Li's order perfectly. He stalled Patriarch 2 and let go bit by bit. For example, 3 months ago, Lu Li said he wanted to negotiate. 2 months ago, Lu Li sent a message that the Rhino apes could state their terms. The rhinoceros race made many offers, but Luli kept on killing them. He sent a message that the rhinoceros race was not sincere. Second Patriarch had to increase the price. Luli indicated that he needed to think about it again before he continued the slaughter. Second Patriarch was speechless. What was Luli doing? He could just say what he wanted. Why did he have to push them into desperation? The Death God branch was feeling proud and elated. When the news was sent back to the headquarters of the Death God, they were all cheered up. Luli had been quiet for decades without any news, which worried the Death God. The powerful warriors on Luli's side were wavering. If there was still no news about Luli, they might change sides and go to the other giants. Now that Luli had come out and started killing with such arrogance, the Death God was thrilled and proud. The Death God also spread the news about Luli to the Chaotic Star region. Many warriors of the Chaotic Star region felt proud as well. Luli was a warrior of the Chaotic Star region. Not long ago, he killed his way to the Heaven's Dipper Star region, and now he was going to the Heaven Universe Star region. It was believed that the rhinoceros race would be suppressed by him again. The rhinoceros race was the pride of the Chaotic Star region. Of course, some major races were afraid. The Death God was not to be messed with. Luli claimed that he was free from the Death God. Lu family members were all at the Tianhua city. If they provoked the Death God and Luli learned about it, they would end up like the duos and the rhinoceros race. The Lu Alliance was the most excited. Lu Ling had blocked off the information so the average disciples of the Lu Alliance didn't know. Luli had been trapped for decades. The Lu Alliance had tens of thousands more disciples, all transported from the Middle King realms. When they arrived, they didn't hear any news about Luli. What's more, they heard many rumors. They were alarmed, thinking that Luli was dead. The Lu Alliance was growing fast. Many disciples of the first few batches had grown up. With a large amount of resources and the means of the Death God, they were making rapid progress. Even though the Lu Alliance did not have many great Emperor Realm warriors, there were many at the Sixth Tribulation. In total, there were thousands of them. Those at the Sixth Tribulation were young. In the future, hundreds of them would reach the Great Emperor Realm, and then the lucky ones would reach the Saint Emperor Realm. Those were the future pillars of the Lu Alliance, the foundation for the Lu Alliance to stand firm in the Death God. Of course, the foundation of the Lu Alliance was Luli. Now that Luli was safe and sound, all the disciples of the Lu Alliance were cheered up. They cultivated harder. Over the decades, the Lu Alliance had several great Emperor Realm warriors. Anlur was one of them. She was progressing fast. She had reached the middle stage of the Great Emperor Realm. Many elders of the Lu Alliance felt ashamed. This miraculous fetus was impressive. As Lu Li's apprentice, she had unlimited resources. She could have anything she wanted. Everything was going well at the Death God. Lu Li stopped after half a year. Since there were no more warriors that were close to the completion, Lu Li found the killing boring. Killing some armies and great Emperor Realm warriors could not inflict much damage to the rhinoceros apes, nor could Lu Li feel any sense of accomplishment. Lu Li stopped. He sent a message to the leader of the Death God's branch to negotiate on his behalf. The core of the negotiation was resources. The more, the better. Treasures, elixirs, books, tablets, materials, they were all related to cultivation or rare treasures. The more, the better. Lu Li sent a message: squeeze them dry until the rhinoceros apes could no longer accept it. The rhinoceros apes were like livestock waiting to be slaughtered. Lu Li's actions had revealed that the rhinoceros apes were strong in appearance but weak in reality. If the rhinoceros apes could not have a warrior at the completion soon, they would not be able to hold on. Sooner or later, they would be wiped out. If they did not extort them now, they would not have the chance in the future. The Great Patriarch received Lu Li's order to start the negotiation. He did not state his terms. Instead, he asked Patriarch Tu to do so. Second Patriarch Lu listed many terms. The Death God branch master accepted them all, but said that it was not enough and that he should add more. Patriarch Tu had to add more. The resources were already equivalent to the accumulation of an average race for 10,000 years. Still, the branch master was not satisfied. In the end, Patriarch Tu asked the branch master to state his price. What the branch master said almost made Patriarch Tu jump to his feet. Increase all the prices you offered by 10 times. Lord Lu said that you have caused him great harm. If you are not sincere, then he will go to the clan leader of the glazed race and work together to destroy the rhinoceros apes. 10 times? Impossible. No. Patriarch Tu's eyes were filled with anger. He yelled, "If you increase the price by 10 times, then all the stocks of the rhinoceros apes will be gone. What will we eat? What will we drink?" The branch master smiled, picked up his teacup and said, "We will not die if we don't eat or drink. But if we don't, we will die." Chapter 36:10. This was not a fair negotiation. One side had the lifeline of the other side. Luli would win no matter how the negotiation went. The branch master of the Reaper was a ruthless one. He tested the rhinoceros ape race's tolerance. In the end, the second patriarch of the rhinoceros ape race almost smashed his head against the wall. When the negotiation was over, the rhinoceros ape race asked for Luli's help. The price was that the resources agreed upon were doubled. They asked Luli to make a statement that he would no longer be an enemy of the rhinoceros ape race. The statement was of no use. Just like how the Gui's race asked Luli to make a statement, it was like a farting. Of course, the statement could by the rhinoceros ape race sometime, so that the outside world could not be sure if the master of the rhinoceros ape race was dead or not. Luli didn't care. The rhinoceros ape race promised to give the territories of the Blood Rock race, Dull Blade race and the Talisman race to Luli. The ruins of divinity would be safe. The rhinoceros ape race had no time to worry about the affiliated universes. Also, Luli had extorted a large amount of resources, hundreds of times more than what he got from the Gui's race. When he got the list of resources, Luli regretted that he had extorted too little from the Gui's race. He didn't know that the super races were so rich. If the resources were only for Luli's cultivation, he could squander them for 10,000 years without worrying about the shortage of resources. Luli wished he could go to the Tiangang galaxy again and fight with the Gui's race. A month later, the first batch of resources arrived. It was half of what was agreed upon. Luli kept his promise and asked the branch master of the Reaper to make an announcement. The announcement stated that the misunderstanding between him and the master of the rhinoceros ape race had been resolved. They shook hands and buried the hatchet. From now on, they would live in peace and build a better future together. As soon as the announcement came out, the Tiangang galaxy was in an uproar. Many major races had their attention on Luli, waiting for a good show. Who knew that the two sides would stop fighting? Also, Luli made an announcement. It seemed he was taught a lesson by the master of the rhinoceros ape race. Did he admit defeat? It had been decades since the master of the rhinoceros ape race came out. Now, his name was known throughout the Tiangang galaxy. The major races that had looked down on the rhinoceros ape race no longer dared to do so. The nearby Meng tribe members trembled in fear. Originally, there were more than a dozen large tribes preparing to attack them. If the rhino ape tribe joined in, the consequences would be even more serious. The rhinoceros ape race wanted this kind of effect. They wanted to continue stabilizing for a period of time, even if it was 100 years. They were very unwilling to retreat back to their ancestral land and give up so much territory. After Luli's matter was dealt with, Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch were ready to cultivate to reach the consummate level. This time, they were extorted by Luli. But for a super overlord that dominated an area of the universe region and occupied so many territories, the resources were affordable. It wasn't as exaggerated as Second Elder made it out to be, but it was still enough to extort half of the rhino ape tribe's stockpile. As long as they could keep their territory, resources did not matter. They could just tighten their belts and grit their teeth during this period of time. If they lost their territory, they wouldn't have any resources in the future. It would be very difficult for the rhino-ape tribe to rise again. Luli wasn't in a hurry to go back. He was waiting for the second batch of resources to arrive. All the resources would be delivered in 3 installments, and the second batch would arrive in 3 months. The time for the third batch was longer, 10 years later. The rhinoceros ape race was afraid that Luli would go back on his words, so they were delaying it on purpose. This didn't matter. As long as the rhino-ape race wasn't destroyed, would they dare to not give these resources? In 10 years, Luli could come back and kill them again. 3 months later, Luli left the universe region with the resources and took a battleship back to the chaotic star region. The 2 galaxies were next to each other, but they were still far apart. It took Luli more than half a year to get back to the chaotic star region. As soon as Luli came back, the god of death issued an announcement. After repeated discussions with the leaders at the headquarters of the god of death, they invited Luli to join the god of death and become a leader. As soon as the announcement came out, many races in the chaotic star region snorted. Was the god of death treating them like fools? But they approved of Luli's character. At the critical moment, he shouldered the pressure alone so that the god of death wouldn't be involved. Many races despised the other leaders of the god of death, believing that they were irresponsible. When they needed Luli, he was the boss. When they didn't need Luli, they would draw a line with him. As for what Luli did at the universe region and the announcement, many warriors of the chaotic star region took it as a joke. Many warriors of the chaotic star region took it as a joke as well. Luli must have benefited greatly, or else he would not have made such a public announcement, given his character. In other words, Luli alone had subdued the rhino-ape race and extorted a lot of benefits from them. In the end, he showed some respect to the rhino-ape race, and in return, he had gained a lot. Therefore, even though Luli had made an announcement, none of the major races dared to belittle him. Half a month after Luli came back, the gang race and the other races sent over messengers to congratulate Luli on his victory. They brought many gifts as well. Clearly, they were trying to please Luli and strengthen their relationship. The underlying meaning was clear as well. They were allies. Luli, don't do anything rash. After decades of development, the god of death had become particularly powerful. There were more than a dozen warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion. Now, in terms of the number, the god of death was among the top 3 in the chaotic star region. It was a pity that the god of death had not reached the absolute completion. That being said, in the eyes of many major races, Luli was even more terrifying than the absolute completion. The god of death had been holding banquets for a month. The 9 leaders of the god of death were more friendly to Luli. Even Emperor Li had expressed on many occasions that he would follow Luli's lead. Luli had done well in this regard. He was humble, low-key, and respectful to Emperor Li. As a matter of fact, Luli had become the boss of the god of death. Luli didn't regard himself as the boss. He was respectful to the other 9 leaders. In this way, the other 9 leaders felt comfortable, and they were friendlier to Luli. Luli was not interested in being the boss, and he didn't want to be in charge. He liked the current situation where everyone huddled together for warmth. The Lu alliance was developing fast. His family and descendants were living a comfortable life. The entire Lu family was thriving. For Luli, this was the ideal situation. The Lu alliance was not the only one growing. The Middle Realm was growing as well. Over the years, some powerful warriors had returned to the Middle Realm to enhance the overall strength there. Lu alliance was free to come and go. He could go back to the Middle Realm at any time as long as he didn't mess around there. Every year, the Lu alliance would send many resources back to the Middle Realm. Under the management of Saint Xiaoyao, there was almost no major war. The resources were integrated to cultivate batches of powerful warriors. Everything was going well. Luli was just waiting for Little White to reach the absolute completion. If nothing major happened on Little White's side, then Luli planned to spend the rest of his life in the Tianyue city. He would be accompanied by his family and loved ones. If he could have some children, then everything would be perfect. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.